Do you know how every once in a while your voice gets deep? Like you can just tell that your voice is in a deeper mode.
So you're excited to be recording right now.
Yes, and you know why?
This is kind of a big moment, tell me.
Because of the narrator for Ender's Game.
Do it. Give it a go. Let me hear it.
Ender Wiggin.
It's pretty good.
That sounded pretty good, didn't it?
Yeah, I think you are in a special place here. I don't.
Your turn. Give it a shot. Go.
Ender Wiggin must believe that no adult will ever help him.
Ender Wiggin must believe that no adult will ever help him. Yeah, I'm in a good place. Let's do this. First of all, did you like the book?
Yes. Unequivocally, yes. Do I think it's the perfect book? Who cares if I think it's the perfect book? It doesn't matter. I enjoyed it. It made me think. It pushed me. It surprised me. Those are the marks of a good book. And I cared about the protagonist.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
And I admired the protagonist.
For many different reasons. Did you...
Yeah.
Let me just ask you this. So, Ender is this young boy. He feels like he's being bullied at all times. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever have a bully growing up?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had a few. There's a guy named Chad. Surprise, his name was Chad. And he was not fun. That dude, everybody loved him. We went to this farm on the kindergarten field trip day, and he started singing Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, I Love Rock and Roll, and everybody hoisted him up on their shoulders, except for me, and I sat alone at the picnic table while everybody hoisted him up, and then we were neighbors, and he badgered me about that later on. Like, why didn't I help hoist him up?
Really?
And like surf him around. And after that, we were enemies, and he was always mean to me. Yeah, I had a bully. I still remember. It's not cool.
I had two significant bully situations. One was in preschool, and I don't know, I was on the, you know those dome-like monkey bar things?
Yeah, sure.
I was trying to climb on one of those. I was like, hanging down on the inside, and he decided to grab my feet and try to pull me down. And I was like, well,
That's mean.
I'm about to fall and hurt myself. So I kicked him in the face.
Good.
It was awesome. I got totally...
And he collapsed to the ground?
I got in trouble. No, he didn't collapse to the ground.
So he's okay.
But then the second bully was more of a deal. Like this was an issue. So in high school, I had this kid in keyboarding of all classes would mess with me. I didn't understand. I was much smaller than all the other kids in school. I really was. It was weird. But like after school, I just got taller than most of them. It was a strange transition. But this one guy, for some reason, he would wait till the teacher had walked out of the room or something, and he would like pull me out of my chair and put me in a headlock kind of stuff.
Why you?
I have no idea.
What did your mom say?
I didn't talk to my mom. I went and talked to my dad. I was like, hey, Dad, question. He's like, what's up? I was like, there's this kid. I try to be a good student, right? He's like, yeah. And I was like, there's this guy, and I don't know what he's doing, but he's like physically trying to draw me into a fight, and I don't want to fight him at all. But he wants to fight me in front of people. And I'm not scared of him, but I want to be the good kid. I want to have good grades, and I don't want to be the troublemaker. But it's really become an issue, and it really was an emotional. It was a big deal to me.
I understand.
And Dad said, "Come here," and I said, "Yes, sir." And we, he's not gonna like that I'm telling this. And so he went and got some his work bag, and he pulls out a 0.9 millimeter lead pencil. So
I was hoping you were going to say nunchucks, but I'm still with you.
No, it was a mechanical pencil. It's the ones that the engineers used. And he said, "This is your pencil now." I said, "Okay." He goes, "This is the deal. Tell the kid once to stop. And if he doesn't, and he tries to do something to you, you grab it just like this, and you slam it into his forearm about a half of an inch down into his forearm. He'll never mess with you again." I was like, "Dad, are you wanting me to shank the kid?"
Yeah, shiv him, man.
He's like...
At 9th grade keyboarding, that'll learn him.
He's like, he's just like, get him off of you. Don't do any permanent damage to the kid. He'll bleed, whatever. Just defend yourself, back away. And then from then on, I was like, dude, I was on G waiting on O, man. I was like, dude, come on. I will shank you.
Did you shank him?
No.
Oh.
I never did. I never let it escalate to the point where I needed to again. But I did have a
Did you
different...
ever shank anybody?
No. Ever.
Oh.
What about you?
No.
Well played. Well played. No, I never did. No, I'm not one to go. I don't know. We'll talk about violence later. This is a good book. It makes me think about a lot of things. And what about the fact that it was a kid? Ender's a kid.
I've thought about that a lot. I didn't know much about this going into it because I only watched a few minutes of the movie and then hated it and turned it off. So this was very fresh to me, and it took me a while to even figure out what was going on with the ages. But before we get too far down that road, real quick, I also had a 9th grade bully. You want to guess what his first name was?
Chad.
Yeah, you're right. His name was Chad.
No, it wasn't.
Now I have a really good friend named Chad, and he's never punched me.
I've got a real good friend named Chad, too.
It's not all of them.
Both of them were Chads?
Yes, different Chads.
Punks.
And this Chad, we should have been friends. It was just dumb that he didn't like me. Like, we sort of got along sometimes, but he would just get mad at me. I don't know, kids, do stupid stuff. I'm sure he turned out to be a swell dude. But one day in shop class, in Ed Copenhaver's shop class, he walked over to me, and I'm using the little thing where you dust off with the little blower thing, and he just comes up behind me and grabs my larynx and just yanks on it for no reason.
What?
Yeah, I was like, that's incredibly mean. And it hurt a lot. And I was like, you know what? I am the smallest person in this class, but I have decided I'm going to punch him in his face. I've seen it work on television. Let's see if I can just knock him out. So I just punched him right in his dumb face.
Did you really?
And his glasses broke, and all of a sudden he's bleeding from where the frame or the lens of the glasses smashed into his head. And I was like, I really enjoyed that. But he is not unconscious. And he looks super mad now.
Did you run?
No, I'm not running. You can't run after that. And so I put my
Actually,
fists
you
up
can.
like the Fighting Irish logo. Not kidding. Because I don't know what to do. And he starts coming at me. And people start to gather around. And so I thought I should back up because I don't want to physically engage him up close. That's bad for me. And he just kept coming at me, and he had like his dukes up, but they weren't defending anything. They were just up. And I thought, well, I think the point of like boxing and fist fighting is you wait for openings and then you try and hit him. Well, it seems like that's an opening. I'll just hit him again. And so I did. And it worked. And it hurt him. And I thought, I win. But he wasn't unconscious, and he kept coming. I hit him like 4 or 5 times. I threw a mop at him. That didn't work. I'm embarrassed about that part. But he kept coming at me, and I got him to bleed in 2 different places, nose and forehead. And he finally decided he needed to close the distance because he hadn't hit me at all. And so he charges me, and he got me good, man. Put a shoulder into my gut and slammed me into this metal door. And I reached up and grabbed this rack of leather dye. And I pulled the whole rack down onto us. And we ended up in like this awkward like ice skating match where nobody could get a grip. Like we were like at this point reduced to like pulling hair and grabbing at clothes. And it was really embarrassing how it ended. But he never hit me. So I feel like that's a W.
I
and
think
no
you
one
win.
ever bothered me again. Ever. That was the end of anyone bullying me ever.
I remember when Jason Tice, the biggest kid in school,
Jason Tice,
in 8th grade, decided he was going to pick on David Grantland, who was a farm boy, who was little.
Now that's dumb.
David Grantland picked him up and threw him into the lockers like a bale of hay. It was awesome. It was awesome. And we were just like, wait a second. That guy was invincible. But now he's not. It was pretty cool.
Changes everything, doesn't it?
Good for you, man. Good for you for sticking up for yourself.
Honestly, like all joking aside, that is probably one of the like 5 or 10 proudest moments of my life.
Oh, I get it.
I didn't.
You
change
rose to
his
the
life.
occasion.
I wasn't strong enough to hurt him, but I just needed for once to stick up for myself. Like right now, I'm the little guy. As a kid, I was the shockingly little guy. Like, I wouldn't say I'm shockingly short now, right? Like, just, I don't know. Like, I'm not very tall, but I'm not, like, just, like, tiny. But as a kid, I mean, I just didn't grow. I was so little. And so it felt good to finally do something about it.
Dude, when I was making the transition from 8th grade to 9th grade, you leave middle school and you go to a high school. Well, the high school that I moved to, I had a bunch of friends there. I was like Mr. my junior high school, right? And then I went to this other school where, a quarter of my friends would be there. And my parents pulled me out the first day. They're like, no, we're going to make you go to this other high school. I was like, but my friends are at the other one. They're like, no, this one's better for you. I was like, I don't want to go. They're like, you have to. It's better academically. I was like, but nope. And so this is not an exaggeration. I walk in the first day of high school. I've got my backpack on. Don't know where I'm going. Trying to find Miss Morrow's room. And I walk by a group of, they must have been sophomores, I guess, sitting in the hall laughing. There was a girl. There's a bunch of guys. And then she goes, hey, you. And she pointed at me. And I looked, I was like, yes, I know you. And I said, where from? I don't know your name. I don't remember. She said, you're the kid that I saw picking his nose and eating it.
And did you deny it? Did you deny it?
I looked at her and I was like, what the heck have my parents done to me? No, I didn't. I was just trying to figure out what my parents had done to me. I didn't know any of these people, any of them. I had I didn't even go to this city for anything. No, I wasn't the kid that picked my nose and ate it.
I know, gross. I don't do that either.
Yeah, never since maybe every once in a while when I was like 4. But anyway.
Yeah.
So the deal is, that's what it was like to start with. And it was just like, what do you do? I think that's why I related to the book. You?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. I certainly relate more to the bullied than the bully. Though I've been told since, in adulthood, by some people that I intimidate them, which I cannot fathom to this day. It makes no sense. I related to Ender feeling beat up and just wanting to be left alone and to try to figure out how to do well in the environment he was in. So to me, he was instantly sympathetic.
Well, I think you've got the bar bouncer look going on.
I don't know, man. Like, male pattern baldness is just it's a thing, and I guess it just makes people look.
No, like your
bouncers,
upper body is built like a broad-shouldered. You've got the trapezoid thing going on.
That's positive. You want the trapezoid thing going on, I think.
Well, I mean,
I
think you want it the other direction. Like, I didn't say which direction was the long side of the trapezoid.
That's fair. Yeah. The inverted trapezoid disaster.
I'm joking.
I'm being bullied. I am being bullied. Yeah. Well, the two stories you brought up, the stuff about being bullied and the stuff about being relocated to a school with a completely new social order that you have to figure out. Who can't relate to that on some level? So it's a really smart way for the book to start out. And I think Orson Scott Card, I'm saying that right, correct?
Yes.
I think he did a really good job of structuring this in a way that would immediately strike a very sensitive part or connect with a really sensitive part of everybody who was reading it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I agree.
liked that.
So do you want to, should we just do the chapter thing? You ready to do it?
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of into chapter 1 already, because the first thing that comes to mind is in chapter 1 is the age of the main character. Yeah. And the theme of bullying.
Well, and I don't know. I mean, the first thing we see is, I don't know if you caught this, but the nurse calls him Andrew. She says, yeah, I did. Andrew, and she's Andrew Wiggin, and she takes his monitor out. So this monitor is this futuristic device that they put in the base of the neck, and I'm assuming connects to the brainstem somehow. and it allows other people to see and hear everything the person that has the monitor on them can see and hear.
I don't have any opinions about whether that's a good idea or not.
It's interesting, right? And so I don't know. We start this whole story with Ender getting his monitor removed, and he feels guilty that he had the monitor in longer than his brother Peter.
Yeah.
And so the monitor is a desirable thing because only the smartest kids get the monitor because they're testing you out to see if you're worthy of some greater program. So, I don't know. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and again, that's Card tapping into something everybody gets, which is the bizarre social pecking orders of youth. Why on earth does me having these 4 G.I. Joe guys instead of those 4 G.I. Joe guys cost me social points?
It mattered.
Because arbitrarily, humans assign social points to things, even when we're teeny tiny young.
It matters. It really does, and I don't know why. I don't know why.
Yep.
I knew the kid that had the Voltron lions, and I also realized that something was different in their house. You know what I mean? Like
I don't. What do you mean?
It seemed to me growing up that the kids that had the most toys, they didn't have as good of a relationship with their parents.
You sure that's not just something you tell yourself to feel better about it?
I don't know.
I knew some people who had really awesome toys and really good relationships with their parents, and I just felt like, you're better than me.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, really. I suppose I knew some people whose parents tried to do toy diplomacy to buy the loyalty and behavior of their kids, and those kids were kind of pukes, but yeah, I don't know, some parents were just, I don't know, more fawning over their kids and showered them with more gifts, and I liked hanging out at their houses.
That's cool. Yeah.
The point is, there is a social pecking order that makes no sense when we look back on childhood. And I imagine if there was a thing that was like post-adulthood where we could look back on our entire adult life from like beyond or like the bonus 30 years, we would think the same thing about all the stuff that we create pecking orders about now. I thought that was a really smart metaphor to invoke early in the story, that there's a different order here and a different currency here, and Ender is in this game already, even if he doesn't know it.
So one thing that I found interesting is the fact that Peter basically threatened to kill him and Valentine. I thought that was interesting.
You would say basically?
Well, yeah, no, he did. He said, I'm going to kill you. But
yeah,
that there's something that my sister Reagan always reminds me of. When my parents used to work third shift, and there was these weird times like nobody's going to be home for the next 25 minutes, so just wait till whatever, Dad's going to be home in a minute or whatever. And so they would leave me and my sister's there, and she always reminds me of this one time when Mom left, and I used to chase her around the house. I did. I was a big brother. And one time Mom left, and as soon as the door shut, I turned around and looked at my sister, and I said, "No one's here to hear you scream." And I just started chasing her. And
there will be no one to hear you scream.
Yeah.
That's, wow.
I did
That's
that.
Twisted.
I
That's
did
dark.
that. Yes. I beg your forgiveness, sister. But that happened. That actually happened. Most of the time we just played lava. The floor is lava. That was the best game. But anyway.
Yeah, I like that one too.
So I felt guilty here in that part of the book. I was like, well, at least I never threatened to kill her like Peter threatened to kill Valentine.
Yeah, same here. My siblings and I got after each other, but as best as I can tell, we never threatened death. But somebody did die. Is it in the opening chapter?
Where Stilson?
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about that? So Stilson basically squares off with him, and you have this moment where Ender says in his head, "Why won't you leave me alone? I don't want to fight you. Just leave me alone."
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, well, okay, you want to fight me, so I have to crush you.
What do you think of that mentality?
I teach it to my kids.
Have they exercised it yet?
No. So this is something I've taught my kids. I don't know if this is good parenting or bad parenting, but one time my son hit my daughter, or vice versa.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, and I pulled him aside and dealt with it very, very strictly. And after we had dealt with everything, I said, "All right, buddy, Daddy loves you, right?" "Yes, sir." "All right, here's the deal. Let's just talk. What did you do?" And he said, "Well, I hurt her." I was like, "No, you chose to use violence. You went straight to violence." So this is what they know. And if I ask my son, "What's the deal with violence?" he'll tell you. He said, "You should never use it under any circumstances unless you have to. And if you have to, it should be so terrible that you never have to do it again."
Whoa. Is that because you read Ender's Game?
No.
Well, what are the limits on that? Like,
I mean, obviously, look.
All joking aside, that a kid could interpret that a lot of ways.
I'm not saying kill the people. I mean, what did you do in shop class? Basically, I'm saying
I punched that dude repeatedly and then flimsily threw a mop at him.
But when it was game on, it was game on. Am I right?
It was game on. I made the decision. This is going to happen forever unless I punch this guy like I've seen in movies.
And that's what I'm teaching my son. Look, here's the deal. Basically that's what my dad did. He pulled out the mechanical pencil. He's like, "Look, don't go looking for a fight, but if the fight comes to you, make it terrible." Right?
Yeah, Camilla went to a self-defense training, and that's what they told her there. Violence is the last thing you want. It's that you're flipping a coin if you get to that point that you don't want to flip. But if somebody else forces you to flip the coin, make sure you win. Shock them with how violent you're willing to be.
I'm going to go like super deep with you for a second. You've seen my work.
Yes.
So the reality of the world is there are evil people, and evil people want to do harm to those that don't deserve it. Some of those people, the only thing you can do, literally the only thing you can do is kill them once they start trying to kill you. That's it. That's the only thing that can happen. Do you agree or disagree?
Yes, I agree, but I think that's the
absolute last
vast
step.
Vast minority of people we would find ourselves at odds with. So, for example, I don't think everyone in power in, say, Iran, for example, fits the description you just gave.
Agree.
I'm sure there are people who fit that description, but Iran, which is a country that I think gets characterized as being what you just described quite often, was like an enlightened liberal bastion in the Muslim world until very, very recently. They had a fundamentalist Muslim revolution when you and I were kids, and it's been weird since. But like, there are a lot of good things. I mean, Iran is Persia. This is a place of brilliance and golden history, and I think the rationale you just gave is something that a lot of times people will use to convince themselves that violence is the only resolution. But Iran is not ISIS. Like, on the spectrum of insane, I just want to kill people, ISIS would be the far extreme. Iran would be less extreme. And a lot of other people would be a lot like us, but just want the same thing we want. We can't both have it. And I think there's a difference in all of those different categories of potential enemies or types of enemies. Agree or disagree?
I mean, you took it to the government level. I was thinking at the individual level. But yes, I mean, it is possible for people to get wrapped up in what's going on around them, and then they decide, like they actively decide they're going to participate in violence. And then that gets a little weirder. I watched a really good documentary last night, or I guess it's called a short film is what you'd call it. It's a short film. It was called 9 Days Out My Window in Aleppo or something like that. This guy, once the war started in 2012, I think it was, he's a photographer, Everybody left, and he just stayed at his apartment.
As a libertarian, I feel like I need to stop you right there and ask, what is Aleppo?
Aleppo in Syria?
I'm just kidding.
I don't get. What do you mean?
Gary Johnson, the awful presidential candidate that the awful Libertarian Party ran, asked that question of someone who asked him about the situation in Aleppo. And it was like his famous gaffe from the 2016 election. I'm sorry, I'm stopping right now. Tell me about, I'm interested. Continue.
Yeah, this guy just filmed out his window, and he could tell that there were some people that were, fighting against the government, and the government would roll through. And all this happened like right outside of his window, and he filmed it. And then he said, looks like my neighbors are getting involved. He said, it looks like the neighbors are working for both sides, and he'd film all this. And then he ends the short film by saying, I refuse to pick a side. It was really interesting. It was really well done.
I think that's a very brave choice.
It's a very brave choice. He said, and he ends it by saying, I'm tired of filming the war out my window now. I refuse to pick a side. And then he just ends it. And I'm like, man, that is powerful.
Picking other and picking nonviolence makes everybody dislike you.
It's interesting. It's very interesting.
Everyone from all sides will view other as a threat.
But here's the thing, man. There's this guy at work. He's a super smart guy. And we were talking one time about faith and working where we work. And I said something to him along the lines of, let's just say hypothetically, you're dead. And you're sitting there talking to God or God's secretary or however afterlife works.
Sure.
Whatever. You're sitting there having the conversation, and you're asked, what did you do with your time on Earth? And, some people are going to say things like, I spread good things to my fellow humans. And then there's people like us, man, that are going to be like, well,
I made a crap ton of waffles.
I worked
What
on...
are you going to say?
I worked on defense, weapons.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, what do you think about that, Destin? I was like, well, I mean, I said what I just told you. The reality is there are bad people that the only way to counter them is to be able to do violence against them in such a terrible way that they don't do it again, but it's very precise and directed and minimize collateral hazards and all this stuff. And then he just looks at me and he goes, oh, that's interesting. So you've thought about this so much that you've got that conversation gamed out in your head to justify it. Interesting. And he just was silent after that. And I walked away having an existential crisis. So,
how are you doing on that existential crisis now?
Good. I'm doing fine.
So not that big a crisis.
No. I left his office that day, and then I had to go think about it. But I mean, you see that in Ender.
In fairness, now hold on a sec. In fairness, your biggest contributions to this have been defensively oriented in terms of protecting people who represent the country you're a part of.
Absolutely true. Yep.
As you game out that conversation with Edith, I would factor that into the script.
Yeah, as the bad guy tries to kill me, I try to, protect myself against the bad guy. That's the bulk of what I've done with my life.
But you were saying in Ender's Game.
In Ender's Game, I see that in him. Why won't you leave me alone? I just want to whatever. And then at some point it becomes so big that he has to crush Stilson. What'd you think about that?
I think it's one of the points with which I most sympathized with the main character. I decided I loved the book after chapter 1.
I know.
A couple of reasons. One, well, I just liked the way it was written. But one, I liked that they let his response be so violent in a story about kids. Not because I want kids to be violent. This isn't a kid's book. But because I wanted to know right off the bat that this wasn't going to be, to use the word again, a kid gloves thing. I wanted to know we were going to get into some actual grit. And that's a pretty gritty moment. The other thing that made me love the book right off the bat is that I relate to that character. Just ideologically about the world. I do not need everybody else to do my thing. I believe in my thing. And I got my stuff that I think is a good way to live and a good way to do things. But I don't need other people to do that. And I'm frustrated by the most obsessive people on the far end to my right and to my left, who it's like they just can't get through the day unless I'm doing whatever they're into. And I don't want to hurt them. I just want them to leave me alone. Like, just, you do you, and please just let me be. If your designs on life require my participation, your designs are dumb. Think of a different design. And so I resonated with Ender right off the bat from just like, I don't need to run the school. I don't need to be the new bully. I don't need to be in charge. Just leave me alone. And I don't know. I really like people. I like hanging out with people. I don't want to be separated from people. I just don't like that attitude and mentality. And I guess I respected that he also wanted to be left alone.
I dig it.
This episode of No Dumb Questions is brought to you by Away. Destin, what is Away?
Away is first-class luggage at a coach price. Would you like to describe it, Matt?
Yeah, well, what I know is this. I got one of these, and it is like, it's the luxury class luggage that I drag around. It is my first choice, and it's invincible.
Yeah, it's indestructible because it's made out of a premium German polycarbonate. And I've tested it myself. I rolled it down the square people pipe and I've slammed it into stuff. And it is awesome. Like, it doesn't break. It gives just enough so that it's not brittle, but it's really strong. It's got really good casters. Do you do the caster thing?
Absolutely. It's the best rolling piece of luggage I've ever owned.
Yeah, the guys that designed it did a survey to figure out what people didn't like about their luggage. And one of the things was they didn't like it when the wheels stick, when it has stiction, like around the hub. So they went on this huge design campaign to figure out how to make better wheels. And that's why it's so fun to push an Away bag around. I love it. Do you want to tell them about the sizes?
Absolutely, I do. There are 4 sizes: the carry-on, the bigger carry-on, the medium, or the large, which is like for your big extended stay trip. And I like that the names of the sizes are things that compute for my brain.
You can go to the website and you can get all these different colors. And I don't know, I got a custom one that I really like. So go check it out.
Destin, is there any kind of warranty on this?
I'm not.
Yes, if anything breaks, we'll fix it or replace it for free for life.
Oh, wow. Really? There's a lifetime warranty?
Yeah, man.
So it's like straight up buy it for life.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's awesome. I follow this subreddit. It's r/buy it for life. So Away bags are buy it for life.
That's elite territory.
That is. All right, cool. That's a big deal. That makes me like my bag even more now. There's free shipping to anywhere in the lower 48 states. 100-day trial. You live with it, check it out, see if you like it. And if at any point you don't like it, you can just send it back. No questions asked. That's a pretty big deal.
And it definitely is compliant with the carry-on sizes. It's designed with that in mind. So that's positive. And I think the only retail store is in New York City. So if you're there, you can actually go and visit a real live tangible store. And otherwise, they crush it doing online business with you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Last thing is there's a cell phone charger built in to the bag. So you can charge this thing up and then you get about 5 full cell phone charges. So I know when I'm traveling in the airport and stuff like that, my cell phone dies. Having that cell phone charger right there and just plug a USB cord in, charge my phone up, that's a really convenient thing, especially on the carry-on bag. So it'll, work while you're on the plane. Big deal.
Are you serious? 5?
Yeah. It'll get 5 full.
That's incredible. I've never had to use it for more than 1 and change.
Yeah, it'll do 5. Yeah, you could take this to Africa. This would be good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, then I like it more yet.
Yep. All right.
What's the deal? We have something special here as a promotion, right?
Yeah, we got to say the promo code. So we say the promo code and everybody knows what to do. So here, I got it. For $20 off a suitcase, visit awaytravel.com/NDQ and use promo code NDQ during checkout. How'd I do?
$20 off, awaytravel.com/NDQ, promo code NDQ during checkout.
Yeah, I think you did better.
And as we always need to remind people, when you support the sponsors, you support us, and that does not go unnoticed. It means a ton. Thank you for tracking these companies down and being a part of what they're doing. It means a lot.
And I appreciate it when you actually tweet the companies, because that lets them know that we're all real people and it's benefiting all of us. You're getting a cool bag. NDQ's getting supported. It's a cool thing. Thanks.
Yeah, that is the gold standard. Everybody wins.
Thanks to Away for supporting No Dumb Questions, and let's get back to Ender's Game.
Game on.
Okay, chapter 2, that was the Peter stuff. We already talked about that. So chapter 3, this is where we meet Graff, Colonel Graff. Or is he Colonel Graff at this point in time?
I think that's right. I don't know.
Or is he just like Major Graff? I don't know. And he got
I
promoted
saw
at some
just
point.
enough of the movie to picture Harrison Ford here.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. See, I had not done that.
Harrison Ford.
Yeah, I didn't watch the movie. Anyway, the cool thing to me about this is when Graff is really straight up with him, right? He's like, look, I'm just going to tell you the way it is. I thought that was pretty cool. Because he made...
I would think that you would, because that's your parenting style.
What do you mean? Let him...
That's how you deal with the kids who you're responsible for.
Make them get buy-in?
Yeah, I mean, you're gentle, you're a kind dad, but you tell them how the world is. You tell them what's actually going on right now, and you bring them up to speed as it's appropriate. You're pretty straight with them.
Yeah, but he I think the reason this was important is he had to get buy-in from Ender, because this is a technique that I use sometimes when I'm, I come up with an idea and there's two options, and I know which one I want, but I present it to someone else, and then they choose. And then once they choose, that's what we're going to do. And at that point, they've got buy-in, and they can't really sabotage it at that point and try to make it fail. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think you maybe game that out a little more than I do, but I understand the technique.
Yeah, you basically say, hey, this is what I think we should do. What do you think? Do you agree? Yeah, I agree. Okay, cool. Now I have
okay, I'm tracking.
Yeah,
sure.
At that point
That's through the front door. I'm tracking.
At that point you have buy-in, and then if they try to sabotage it in any way, it would just be a jerk move. That's how that works. So that's what Graff did with Ender. He basically said, look, I'm going to shoot you straight. This is the way it is. And Ender's like, let's do it. Let's get on the rocket.
And the way it is billions of bug monsters attacked our planet, and we think they're coming back.
No, that's not the way it is. The way it is you're about to leave home, and you're not going to come back for a long time, and it's going to be many years. That was pretty much what he said, right?
But I'm almost sure I'm right about the bug monsters, too.
Yeah, he said that, too.
Yeah, but the new information for Ender here is where he fits in this story now.
Right.
And he's just coming off thinking he's been rejected from any possible participation in this program. Oh, and we haven't even touched on the fact that part of the reason he wouldn't expect to be in this program is because he's a third.
Oh,
which is
yeah.
Without special government permission, you can't even have 3 kids.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was very interesting. Which is interesting now because, the I don't know, the birth rate's declining. You aware of that?
Yes.
It's interesting. I'm doing my part.
The world well done, sir. The world feels really full on this side of the Mississippi.
You're talking about you're on my side right now, aren't you? That's weird.
It's weird, man.
Yeah.
Like, this makes me think about some stuff from a different perspective than I think about it when I am in the complete and total wilderness of Wyoming.
Nah, it's not very full. America's big, man.
I agree.
In the book, he's from North Carolina. Did you catch that?
Yeah, I did. They were in North Carolina. What was it? Asheville? Greensboro?
No, I'm trying to find out. I thought I wrote it down, but I guess I didn't.
North Carolina City.
No, I forget where it was.
Okay, I believe you. They end up in Florida too, though, don't they? Doesn't Florida come up in the book?
I think so. I think that's where they get on the rocket, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, sounds good. Once
he gets on the rocket, that's another place that I start to identify with Ender, because he starts doing coordinate transformations in his head.
Blah, 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 blah. We can't go there yet. Whoa. We can't go to the rocket scene yet.
Why not?
Because we're skipping one of the most potent emotional moments in the entire story.
What moment?
This kid voluntarily chooses.
But there's
as
rockets.
A 6-year-old. I know there are rockets. Helicopter. Helicopter.
Squirrel.
Rockets, flying things. Okay, hold on.
All right.
Like humans.
Go ahead and feel things. I'll be here.
A 6-year-old voluntarily chooses to leave his family, maybe forever. I cried. Chapter 3 of the book.
You cried?
I did. Driving down the highway, man.
There were no running girls or anything.
Well, Valentine, a little bit.
Did you really cry?
Yeah, I was in eastern Colorado, coming up on this rundown tourist attraction tower where they claim you can see like 9 states, but you can only see one. And I remember right there as we passed by, I was like, I wish I could look closer at that, but my eyes are all blurry. I should wipe those so I can drive and care for my family. It was really powerful to me. I got a 7-year-old sitting in the back, man. A gentle, tender-hearted, wonderful little guy. And from the dad perspective is what made me emotional. I just can't imagine. Can't imagine handing him off to some guy who just walked in 15 minutes ago. And that's it. Maybe I'll see him again someday. Maybe not. And if I do, he'll never be the same. It made me heave. It took my breath away.
Dude, your power to empathize is stronger than mine. I'll say it that way.
Don't bring up Pete's Dragon.
No. You talking about the scene where, like, there's the screeching tires, and then there's the floaty quiet scene where, like...
Oh, you stop it right now. While you're at it, why don't you bring up the first 10 minutes of Up or the first 10 minutes of the first Star Trek reboot?
Oh.
Like, just hit them all. Every time we talk, and you're like, oh, I never cry. And then any movie I bring up, you're like, that one made me a little misty. Yeah, that one. Did you cry in all the movies? You just deny it.
Maybe. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, rockets. So
rockets. Okay, tell me about how cool the rocket is.
So he gets in the rocket, and then there's coordinate transformations that he does in his head. He's like, but I like the way he just sits there and he's brooding over the rest of the launch idiots, right? That's the way he views them. Have you ever done that? Have you ever felt like you were like the person that got the situation and everyone else doesn't? Have you ever felt that way, Matt?
I'm doing mental chess in my head right now, remembering that there's a third chair here, and I'm trying to decide how I want to come off. I'm just going to go with honest, and we'll let it be what it is. I feel 2 emotions. When I have Michael Scott Dunder Mifflin moments, they're the moments where I think I'm the guy, and then moments later I realize everyone else was the guy, and I'm the dumbest person in the room. And I feel total humiliation. Other times, I feel like people are not seeing the code here, and I can see the code in terms of how we got here and what the ideas are behind this. Well, yeah, you went with me. We went to that Paul, Apostle of Christ movie.
Yeah.
And I thought I saw you shiver a little bit during that one, as a matter of fact.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Nothing. I'm not saying you were emotional about it. You were fine. And so we got to the end of that, and I was like, they're doing something there. There was something really subtle and really clever. This is the anti-Christian movie. Like everything that's terrible about Christian movies.
Oh, you're talking about the
they're
review?
Flipping it on its head.
The review you made, and then the people called you?
Yeah. Well, I guess I told you this, but the dude who wrote the movie called me up.
Let me pull the third chair up. So here's the deal. We went and watched this movie. Matt got excited about it. He went back and he recorded like his gut response to it that night. And he talked about a lot of film words, and he basically explained everything. And then you got a call from, was it the director?
The writer-producer looked me up the very next day. Yeah, he's like, we just wanted somebody on the internet to get our movie, and you get it. Thank you. I'm like, oh, thanks, guy. Just a great, smart, sharp dude. And so we turned over a bunch of cards and compared notes, and he's thinking a couple levels deeper than what I was tracking with. But yeah, at that moment, I felt like I need to record this and put it on the internet because I think I see the code here, and I bet other people aren't going to see it. And I bet this could usefully contribute to the conversation. So to answer your question, yes, there are moments where I feel like I see the matrix code of ideas and philosophies behind what's going on, and I'm right. And there are other times I think I see it and I'm reading it all wrong. Do you ever feel like the smartest guy in the room?
I think everybody feels like the smartest guy in the room at some point. Everybody does. I just found it interesting that he actually was. He didn't want people to know. He just sat there and was. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and he passed a test right off the bat. And I guess that's kind of his second test that he passed, isn't it?
Which one? What test?
Well, when they get on the rocket and the gravity situation starts to change, he figures something out that other people aren't getting, right? I'm remembering the story correctly?
With the ladder and how things are changing?
Yeah. Well, remember he laughs at the way Colonel Graff is positioned? Coming in, like, just the way he's positioned, it made him chuckle.
Yes. There was another thing that I found interesting was Graff showed preference to Ender, and that turned all the other boys against him. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I didn't get it. There were two things there that subverted my expectation. One, I expected the Lee Emery routine where he was going to be like, is that funny, boy?
Right.
And I expected Ender to be like, no, I'm super sorry, sir. I'm an idiot. That's right, you maggot puke. And like the whole thing, like, oh, we're going to do this routine. And it didn't. I love stories that subvert my expectations.
Right.
And then it further subverted them where instead of being harder on Ender to make him work harder, they were nice to him to make everybody else hate him. And so when Graf started being nice, I was like, what are you doing, dude? You're not setting him up for success. Oh.
Right. Yeah, playing the long game.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of notes in front of me, and it says, dorklings is a great word.
Who used the word dorklings?
I don't remember. You dorklings.
Was it Graf?
I don't know if it was Graf or if it was the first guy when they, what was the name of the first guy when they were, they got to the place and basically he was...
Mr. Anderson.
No, it was Mama Hen. Like the guy that got him into their bunks to begin with and all that good stuff.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I don't remember.
I forgot his name.
I'm going to do a bad job remembering stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, I thought it was interesting where I think it was Graf that says this when they were doing that little talk between the two guys, that they had in between every few chapters. And he says, my job isn't to be friends, it's to produce the best soldier. And then I have a note here, who taught Alexander the Great?
You know the answer to that?
I don't. I know it's some famous philosopher like Socrates or Plato or something. I'm supposed to know this, but I don't.
You just got to go one more. Socrates was the teacher of Plato. Plato was the teacher of...
Testicles. I don't know. Who?
You've heard of Plato, Aristotle, Socrates?
Yes.
Morons.
Yeah, Aristotle.
Aristotle?
Aristotle was Alexander the Great's teacher.
Ah.
And personal private tutor for a big chunk of time.
That's cool.
So you felt connection with Ender over the fact that his brain is wired like yours on some level. He sees the engineering code of what's going on around him.
Yep.
He's distracted by it almost.
Yeah.
He's more interested in the magic of the physical world than he is with impressing people. And that is like you.
Yeah, definitely.
We just hung out for 6 weeks. I'd say 9 times out of 10 it's endearing. 1 time out of 10 it's like, dude.
Annoying.
Dude. Destin. Dude, we were doing something. Dude. But you'll do this little thing where you kind of cock your head to the side and then you stick your chin forward and you squint. I'm like, oh, we lost him. We lost him. There's a lever or a pulley or some sort of primitive machine or something he hasn't quite figured out yet, and he's going to eyeball it, and he's going to nod and act like he hears me, but he does not hear me. He's far away solving how that coffee maker works right now, and he'll be back. I'll just keep talking. He'll be back. And inevitably, you'd come back with some explanation from where your brain went.
Tara called me out in a meeting the other night. We went to a meeting, and we got stuck there quite a while. It was good. But she said, we should have quit 30 minutes ago. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, we lost you. I was like, what do you mean you lost me? She goes, when he said XYZ, you were gone. I was like, oh, I wasn't I?
So true, man.
Yeah.
Like, I've suspected that for a long, long time on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Short samples hanging out here and there. You don't see it quite as much.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no hiding that over 6 weeks. Like, your brain is active.
Yeah.
You love the things that you like learning about. And you will just go to your mind palace every now and then.
Mind Palace.
And work all of that out.
Mind Palace. That's say happy
that's what
place.
The super smart people in Sherlock call it.
That's an interesting term. Okay, doesn't feel that way to me, but I like Ender because he likes to think about things. So
yeah, there's no insult in what I'm saying. You get that, right?
Yeah, and if there was, that would only make me like you more. So it's all good.
Oh well, cool.
What would aliens do if they came to Earth?
Wow. Yeah. To me, that is a wrap-up question, but let's just do it.
If Close Encounter stories from rural Alabama are to be believed, mostly they want to probe people.
Yeah, they got warm, glowing rods.
They're really into probing people. No, but what would they do? Just go for resources?
But the answer to what makes us tick, it's not in that hole. You're going to want to check other parts of the Alabamans.
Thanks, Matt. What would you do? Would you go to just try to get resources? Is that what they would do?
I think what they would do depends on what it took to unify their planet. to use their resources to get where they wanted to go. So when we think about aliens, like we're probably picturing something like us, but what if their planet was really, really small and they all lived close to each other for all of their existence and all of their civilizations were mingled from the very beginning? And so maybe they never got into the war thing quite the same way. You know, we're such a product of our geography, even on the global sense. It's the way the world's built, it kind of sets it up for feuding. The way humans are built, how long we live, what it takes to sustain us. We're set up to feud a little bit here. Well, maybe some alien, if they exist, maybe their physiology or anatomy and maybe their geography doesn't set them up to feud so much. Or maybe it sets them up to feud even more. And so I'd say the degree to which that alien race got a taste for bloodshed and violence as a solution as they progressed through the civilization scientific progress tree to make space travel would determine how they would interact with the beings they encountered on planets like ours. Does that sound crazy?
You just probe people is what I heard.
You just we just probe. That's really all we do. We don't need anything else.
One thing he says is, God is a bugger if it's not Ender. I thought that was pretty interesting. Is God a bugger?
No, I don't think God is a bugger.
Okay, think about my question. Is God a bugger? He lets us fight. He lets us kill each other.
No, I don't think God is a bugger. Is it okay if I go with my first answer again?
Yeah, the non-blasphemy one? Yeah, that's a good answer.
Okay. Yeah, and it's not even that I fear saying something forbidden or whatever. I just know that doesn't add up to me. But I really love the sentiment of the comment from the character.
I do too. I actually listened to that commentary from Orson Scott Card at the end. Did you listen to that?
No, I did not. Didn't know it was there.
Yeah, he said in his original writing of the story of the book, he had a lot more profanity in it, and he had a lot more blasphemy in it. And he said he went back and he purged that because he didn't want kids to learn how to cuss from him, basically. I thought that was interesting.
We listened to this with our family, the whole thing, and they were wildly engaged.
Oh, yeah.
It took them down the thinky hole.
Chapter 4. Here's my note. Who are these narrators? And if mankind was seriously at stake, who would be in command?
Wait, like, who are the narrators? Like, who are the voice actors?
No, the dialogue.
Because one of the voice actors was on Devil in the White City.
No way.
Yeah, I'm almost sure.
Really?
I'm going to go with almost. Have not looked that up to verify.
That's cool.
But you mean, who are these ever-watching characters who are commenting on what the kids are doing at Battle School, you mean?
Right.
Yeah, I mostly kept them straight.
Battle School's awesome, by the way. It's so cool.
Yeah. I just wish you could have, like, recess or friends over something.
Oh, God, it'd be really
We
cool.
need to talk more about the structure of Battle School. That's a whole discussion. But you asked a second really good question there. I'd want Jean-Luc Picard.
I mean, let's think about it. Like, right now.
Right now. I don't know.
John Mattis?
I don't know.
The Secretary of Defense for America? Who's the leader of NATO right now?
Does NATO have a leader?
Typically.
Really? I don't know. That's your expertise.
Yes, it does.
I know we still have a NATO.
It's Jens Stoltenberg,
Whoa, sounds Norwegian.
the former Prime Minister of Norway.
Wait, no. Yeah, it's weird. They always end up appointing world leaders. Like, what's that dude from Norway who was like the undersecretary or like director of the UN?
I have no idea.
Jans. Ylvis did a whole rock opera about the guy, and I can't think of it, but it was brilliant. Yeah, okay, so Norwegian people are in charge of NATO. So would Norway run our defenses against the aliens?
I don't know. But this is think about it. Like, if we had to unify right now.
I don't know if we could.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Like, none of our systems are as integrated as they would need to be. I mean, some allies are. I don't know. That would be a disaster at this point in human development.
I'll tell you this. I had a conversation with a 4-star general recently.
Yeah, me too. Well, mine was 5. Mine had 5 stars.
Dude,
but
I had like
4
a
is good
real.
also.
I was teeing up something really awesome, and you just went sarcasm on me.
Well, you can't just roll into a conversation and be like, other day I was talking with a 4-star general. You didn't do it. You weren't arrogant, but you just have to give the rest of us a chance to acknowledge that those conversations aren't as common for us.
No, I don't have to do that. Just let me say the statement again,
think
and
you
let's
have
just
to.
both be excited about it,
Like
okay?
You have to. Okay.
I
I
had
am
a
excited about it.
Oh my gosh, Matt. You're insufferable. I had a conversation with a 4-star general the other day about Ender's Game. Is that not cool?
Seriously? Ender's Game came up?
It came up.
What?
No joke. This actually happened. I'm sitting down with a guy for reasons that'll be clear later. And then I said, "Sir, have you ever read Ender's Game?" And he said, "Yeah, I have." He goes, "That book is awesome. It tells the future." I was like, "What do you mean it tells the future?" He goes, "The tactics, the way they blah, blah, blah." And then, look, they didn't have iPads then. And they're talking about these desks that,
The general said all that?
yes, he's awesome. The point is, that's a 4-star general. If we went to war with the buggers right now, who would be the guy? Eisenhower was a 5-star, right? In World War II?
That sounds right to me. I mean, he was the Supreme Allied Commander.
Yeah, but on the other side, you had Rommel on the Axis, but in the UK, you had Montgomery, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, man, how crazy would that would have been if some craziness had happened and Eisenhower and Rommel had to get together and fight something.
Rommel was...
He was awesome.
he was a very bright man.
Wasn't he forced to commit suicide?
I knew this once. I don't remember.
Yeah. There was a plot against Hitler, and Rommel was forced to commit suicide.
I remember that he went out with nobility. I didn't remember that he committed suicide.
Yeah.
Was that the same plot that Bonhoeffer was a part of?
I don't know the name Bonhoeffer, but it was the same one.
Bonhoeffer is an evangelical pastor, a Protestant minister in Germany who wrote just some amazing stuff about duty of conscience, and he chose to participate in an assassination plot despite the fact that he found that enormously unpalatable as a Christian, and he had to weigh the morality of standing idly by or doing something about it. And I think he was executed as a result of his participation.
I mean, that's what Ender did in this book, right?
In what way?
He learned how to kill people. Or I guess if you think buggers are people.
Yeah, but he was coached through. Okay, and that's what's so interesting to me as the battle school thing starts to shape up. He had some of that in his blood intuitively, and obviously that's what they were looking for. Like, they wanted to see a brilliant kid whose guiding principle would be, I'm not out for blood, but if it's going to happen, you will never be able to hurt me again. They wanted to see that, and they got it in Ender. And the other thing that they wanted to see was someone who could earn the respect and loyalty of a bunch of other talented people so that he could be the lone decider in a situation.
Yeah.
You ask the question, who would be in charge if we did this now? And we both sit here and stammer and struggle and obfuscate because we don't know. There's no good answer for that. And I think that's the reason this whole Ender's Game scenario actually makes sense. It didn't when I was reading the book at first, or listening to the book rather. I'm thinking, why children? What are you doing? This is not believable. They're too young. Nobody would make these choices. It's dumb. And I was put off by that at first. As it unfolded more and more, I saw why the people in charge decided to defer to some kid. How would you explain their rationale in deferring to children?
They were unbent by the world. A child has the maximum potential as a human to overcome a situation. Like, their minds are as adaptable as they can possibly be. And so you can present them with new information and the learning algorithm in their mind. Like, I use that term on purpose. The learning algorithm hasn't been tainted by data that's not relevant to the problem at hand. You're familiar with machine learning, right?
Mm-hmm. Mostly from you talking about it.
You can take an optical system or whatever, and you can teach it things. But if you give it a bunch of crap data initially that doesn't apply to the problem at hand, it's not going to help you at all. It makes sense to start with a new data set, and that's what you get in children.
What an interesting and cold way to put it. You're not wrong, and you're not wrong for saying it that way. It's just that's the kind of shrewdness that the adults in this book employed in figuring out what to do.
Yeah, it is a fun way of thinking of it, isn't it?
To answer my own question, here's what I think their rationale would be stated a slightly different way. The advantage the buggers have over us. And by the way, in the movie, they don't use the word buggers. They changed it because of how offensive that word would be to half of the English-speaking world, which I thought was probably, like, it stunned me that was the name of these creatures, but I'm just going with it.
Is that offensive in, like, Australia?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
I would think that would be offensive in Australia.
What does it mean?
It's just going to be one long series of bleeps if I tell you what it means.
Oh, okay. I don't want to know then.
You just Google that sucker. It's pretty crass, if I understand it right. It's pretty crass.
I don't want to know.
No, you kind of do. You'll Google it later.
Why would you do this to me?
What? Like, isn't that? I don't know. I'm just going to apologize and move on. I'm so sorry, Destin. That was wrong.
Whatever.
What I
Go
did
ahead.
was wrong. The buggers are a hive mind. One brain sends everything in unison, and the humans figured out we can't match that long term. We can pull some stunts and get away with it like we were able to do under the courage and leadership of Mazer Rackham, but we need one mind that controls everything. The number one mistake we could make would be to have too many cooks in the kitchen, but we have to find the right single cook to put in the kitchen. And we're not going to get that out of a person who's been allowed to haphazardly evolve in their thought through the ups and downs of life. We must control everything about the evolution of this person's personality and skill set, but we also can't waste our energy because we're almost out of time. We can't waste our energy on someone who isn't competent enough in their raw aptitude in order to be that single cook in the kitchen. So then, age 6, all of a sudden, well, I get it. Age 6, yeah, that's about perfect. You could tell the aptitude level of someone, and they yet would not be so shaped by the world that you couldn't make them into what you needed them to be. It's ruthless, but they needed a single mind to counter a single mind. Do you think that's an overstatement?
I do, because of the conversation I had with the general. You know, we talked about this, and he said the beauty... I don't know. We're going to get to the final battle later. Let's just push that off to the final battle.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
All right, man. This is the part where we thank the patrons, and I want to read a Reddit comment to you. You game? All right. It's from Huck Bishop.
Okay.
And he said on the Ready Player One movie review episode, he said, I currently am not a Patreon member for No Dumb Question. Wish that I was working on it. Wanted to let you know that I have never skipped that part of the episodes where you thank Patreon members. I also don't perceive it as the same as a commercial break where you're doing so for financial reasons, even if you do love the product. I've always perceived it as an honest gratitude for those who want to walk a little bit of this road with you.
Golly, I appreciate that.
I also appreciate the fact that he's not a patron. You know, I think that's cool because you don't have to be a patron, but he gets it. He completely gets it. Patreon's a goodwill engine, but I feel like Huck Bishop just sent us a little goodwill too, don't you?
Absolutely. And I love that phrase. And I can't remember if I've asked you if that's your phrase or if you heard that somewhere, but that's what it is. It's what it amounts to.
I think I made it up.
Okay, well then coin that thing. Trademark it.
Oh, speaking of coins, you actually handed out 50-cent pieces to the patrons at the soda parlor.
Dude, that's the most artful segue of your life. Yeah, we brought the 50-cent piece collection with us to Nashville, and all the patrons who showed up have their 50-cent piece, which actually I feel like makes us look bad because other people don't.
Well, we were waiting on Amos to print those things out, but he's been traveling. Hopefully,
which is still happening, right?
Yeah.
Like that certificate that I wrote. And the reason it's not fast is because dude actually prints. Like, he's manually building the thing.
In a printing press.
The stamp to print it with in a press.
Yep. That's happening.
That's going to be so cool.
It is going to be cool.
Worth the wait.
Yeah. I wanted to point out that no one should ever feel guilty for not being a patron. Everyone who is, we greatly appreciate it. Anybody who even thinks about it, we also greatly appreciate that. It's clear that you get what we're doing and what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And it was fun. Some people at the meetup got to discuss some of the nuance of what we do, and that was fun.
They got it.
Yeah.
There were people there who explained what we were going for in some ways better than I've been able to articulate it. That was really cool to see them hold up a mirror like that. And one other point of goodwill, I've got two super smart friends who I've known for years who started listening to the podcast and eventually made their way to the subreddit. And both of them in the last week have gone out of their way to say that it's an oasis in the internet in terms of tone and how people disagree and treat each other. Unsolicited, they just complimented people who listen to the show and participate in the subreddit. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. So bottom line, thank you to everyone who supports on Patreon. Thank you to everyone who doesn't, but gets it. That's awesome. Thank you very much.
Agreed.
Yeah, so there's this point where the isolation ends for Ender because they were purposefully isolating him.
Mm-hmm.
And then, he gets this kiss from a lie. Do you remember this? And he says, Salam. There's this moment of tenderness, a true friend, the connection with a lie.
Yeah.
It reminds him of genuine affection that he received from his mother when he was young. Do you remember the tenderness from your mother? The mother being everyone that's listening right now.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and I don't have to look back that far. I mean, she continues to be just a great mom. But yeah, when I was little, there was just no one who can comfort a little kid like their mom. Like all joking about mom bots aside, as a mom should, she has played an incredibly unique, special role in my life.
My mom has as well, obviously. I mean, we talk about how amazing my mom is, but it's interesting that he would associate this tenderness with his mother. And you got to remember, we're talking about a 6-year-old fictional character, but I found that interesting because he said something like, Ender remembered, a moment when his mother prayed over him or whatever it was.
Yeah.
When he was a kid. And I'm thinking, he's 6. That was like last year for this guy.
That was a cool moment, though.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
Well, it's 16.7% of his life ago. That's all you got to work with. You take it.
Yeah. I don't know. I found that interesting, and that part stuck with me.
Why do you think that's what triggered the character to think of his mom?
I don't know, but I'm going to choose a different question to answer, and that is why.
Fine.
Why was it so important to him? And I think it was because his mother didn't know that he was listening. So it was real. Like Ender knew that was the real way she felt because there was no advantage to him hearing her. I don't know. I find that interesting. And I think about that sometimes when, I'm tucking my kids in at night and I walk in and they're already asleep. I think about all the things I want for them in their life.
Me too.
I always tussle their hair, give them a kiss, something like that.
That is a very soft-hearted moment for me.
Yeah.
Every night going in to check on the kids. Not that they need to be checked on. They're fine. It's for me, not for them. And I think about the exact same stuff. Pray for them. I don't think in a superstitious way. I think that's about the most honest prayer that exists in my entire life, is praying for good and redemptive things for them. And not just that nice things would happen to them, but that they would be good. Sometimes when I pray other stuff, I really, really, really want to tell the truth at the most honest level of my soul, but sometimes I'm probably not. When I pray for the kids, it's truth.
It's their future and their mate. Those things all come to mind at that point in time for me.
That got squishy.
That did get squishy. All right, so the next part is Ender had to earn his stripes in this new situation, right? So you got Bonzo, and Bonzo puts him in this really weird predicament. You remember?
Do you mind if before we get to Bonzo, can we talk about the game for a second?
Yeah.
Because that's all well established before we get into Chameleon Army and Bonzo. I have two things I want to backtrack on.
Okay.
So, one, at what point did you figure out what that game even was?
Basically freeze tag? Laser tag?
No. The video game.
Oh, you talking about the fantasy?
Yeah, the fantasy game that he plays on his tablet or whatever it is, on his quote-unquote free time.
I didn't figure it out till the very, very, very end of the book.
Maybe I don't understand the very, very, very end of the book.
Do you not?
Maybe I do.
Oh my gosh, do you not understand what's going on here?
So here's what I feel like is going on. There's this computer simulation that is a game that the kids can play on their free time, and it somehow is a projection of what they're wrestling with. And it's designed for evaluation purposes as well as to coach them through their personal hurdles. Or at least Ender gets to play. I don't know. I assume other people can play. And so it's going to look different for every kid. And at some point, when Peter appears in the game, there's confusion amongst the programmers as to how that would happen. Because that face in there, that doesn't make any sense. I never really felt like I understood how that happened until maybe right now.
You don't know.
In this conversation.
No, you still don't get it. You still don't get it.
Let me finish spewing my ignorance, because I want to get it. And if I don't, I won't be ashamed. And so in the end, when we get to that planet and Ender starts to recognize stuff from the game, he figures out that telepathy power that the buggers were using amongst themselves is something that has been projected onto him, knowing that he would be the one to defeat them, but also the one who might redeem their people, or whatever you call them. And so the game was influenced by the mind of the queen or whomever to bring him to that point, and that world was crafted around that whole ultimate end. Now help me get it.
So I interpreted the end differently, right? So the simulation was the product of the computer, and that did have the ability to interact with him in some like futuristic software way. The end of the book,
right?
But they could see into his mind, and they saw all of these things in his mind, and the only way they could communicate with him was to build the things that they saw in his mind.
Yeah, the only place where I think I missed what you're saying so far was the chronology of it. It hadn't occurred to me that as he was defeating them, they were reading his mind. I had imagined that somehow they sensed his importance and had been communicating this stuff from earlier on. But what you're saying makes way more sense.
I think that's what went on. Now, the fantasy game itself, again, in the commentary by Orson Scott Card, he said, look, any like weird stuff you feel in the fantasy game, that's not a projection from Ender. That came from my mind. That's him talking. He's like, if you felt any like paranoia or schizophrenia in that was me writing all that in straight out of my brain. That's what he said. So the fantasy game is a little question mark in the story.
It kept my attention. I cared about what was happening in it.
Yeah, I did too.
And when Peter showed up, it broke my expectations. My kids were grossed out by the mouse killing the giant thing. That foreshadows his ultimate victory a little bit. So you're reading this book, you know it's called Ender's Game, and your first instinct is to think, oh, Ender's Game is this video game that he plays, and the answers about him and the whole point of the book will come from the video game.
No, I thought it was Battle School.
But then pretty quickly, you figure out the Battle School game might be Ender's Game. And neither of those are actually Ender's Game. But it's fun the way it teases you along. Because we were going to obviously read this together and discuss it. I have been dying to hear what you think about the way Card designed the game, what you would do if you were playing the game. I just want to give you carte blanche to go because I know you have a billion thoughts.
Dude, it's freaking awesome, man.
Isn't it, though?
I love Battle School, dude. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen until you open the gates, and then you just flood in, and you have to figure it out. And I love the fact that everybody... It kind of reminded me of how the British would line up and fight, right, during the Revolutionary War.
I was thinking about that just today, touring the Battle of Yorktown site.
Yeah, so, at the very beginning, the first game he went into, he was forced to watch. He couldn't do anything, right? But he watched how slowly they flooded out, and they went and they did the thing they were programmed to do. And he's like, "That's mess. I'm just gonna go blow them up instantly." And he changed the game every time he fought. Man, it's awesome.
Yes,
so awesome, dude. There was the national championship game this year.
What sport?
Football.
Oh, college football.
Yes, exactly. Nick Saban, we were losing, and
who's we?
The University of Alabama, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
In the national championship game, the University of Alabama was losing in the last half. And then Nick Saban just pulled one on everybody. The quarterback we had been using the whole year, like everybody had watched film on this particular quarterback. All of a sudden he goes, hey, you, new guy that nobody knows about, you're now the quarterback. Go in and play. And he dominated.
It was unbelievable.
He absolutely dominated. And there were two things that happened there. Number one.
And for people who are not familiar with American football, that never happens. That is not a strategy. It doesn't exist. You don't do that.
You just don't reset your quarterback in the last half of the national championship game. You go down with the ship. That's just what people do.
Yes.
But Nick Saban was playing 4D chess, and he was like, this is what I'm going to do. And people's brains exploded, mine included. Best game I've seen in a long time. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. And so I felt like Ender was so far above everyone else. And it's not just that he was, naturally better. He was willing to put in the hours as well. He was willing to figure it out.
His aptitude level was remarkable. His work ethic was remarkable. His willingness not to be bound by the constraints of normal really set him apart.
One of my favorite parts of the whole book is when he was debriefing himself at the end of one of the battles. And he said, okay, what did I learn today? And he says, one thing I learned is that sometimes individual soldiers have the ability to make better decisions than the orders they're given. I was like, that is amazing. And I thought about the Marines when I read that part, because this is on their recommended reading list.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever do this? Do you ever think about if stuff hit the fan and I needed to fight with people, who would I want on my side? Have you ever thought about that?
I think about that with individuals. It's one of the ways I evaluate how much to trust the people I'm interacting with. Would I want this person fighting alongside me if everything depended on it? Yes or no? Most people are in one of those two camps in my brain as we speak.
Right. But some people have different strengths and weaknesses, right? Like, there's some people, if I say, here's the deal, everything matters on that. Well, I don't know. How do I say this? Well, let me put it this way. I used to work with this guy, and we had this device we were opening. So imagine a lawnmower pull rope, right? And it was holding something that had a lot of spring force, okay? And he pulls it. And he said, Destin, I need you to hold this rope. I said, got it, Mike. I've got it. He said, Destin, do you have all of the force in the entire planet on this rope right now? I said, Mike, every bit of force that exists in the world is on this rope right now. He said, good, because I'm about to put my hand in here, and if you drop it, I lose my hand. I was like, do it right now. Do what you got to do. And that's, how we communicated. And so,
right.
so from that moment on, Mike and I knew that if you need it done, you ask Destin to do it. Or if Destin needs it done, I ask Mike to do it. And from that moment on, our communication was very well understood. And we knew that if I said it so, it is so, because it matters. And there's some people that I would trust with a lot of things, but then there's this one particular thing in their life that, I know if I need that done, I just don't go to that person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's smart, and that's not a wholesale rejection of that person's character.
Right.
That is just saying, look, that ain't their strong suit, and this requires a different skill set.
Have you seen The Pacific, the HBO series about...
Loved Band of Brothers. Still haven't watched The Pacific.
Oh, man, you got to watch The Pacific. There's this moment where they have to stand watch. And I don't know if you know much about the rules of warfare, but the military code of conduct, if it's your job to stand watch, if you fall asleep on your post, do you know what the punishment for that is?
No.
It's death. Like, it can be death. If it's your job to stand watch and you don't, that means you left your entire group exposed to be overrun because you weren't doing your part of the job. It's very important. And so that's addressed in the Pacific. It's great. It's a great moment. Anyway, so this made me think about all the different ways that different soldiers could be used in different situations. And, a group of people could use their skills together to accomplish a common goal and overwhelm an enemy. Fascinating, man. This was fascinating to me.
The strategic side of it was fascinating to me as well. The physics of it, all I could do was just marvel at how interesting and fun it was to imagine multi-dimensional tactical sparring. Like, there was a game within a game. What was it? Final Fantasy VII? Final Fantasy X? It was one of those ridiculous PlayStation games, and there was a game within it called Blitzball, where you played like underwater, and it was like volleyball, dodgeball, basketball, all mushed together. The game doesn't matter, but it happened in all dimensions, and that was really fun because everything we play is obviously a two-dimensional sport, forward and back, side to side, maybe a little bit of jumping, but you can't dig. So this was just a very different thing. But here, what opportunities present themselves strategically if there's no up or down, and you have access to all directions, and how would you move in such an environment? And so as it started, I was like, man, I hope they game out how you would just move in that environment, how you could get around and outmaneuver other people when you don't really have full control. Like I've told you before, that maybe my favorite sport to actually play is hockey, because every other sport is on lines and hockey is on arcs. And so you think differently about how to attack your opponent just because you play on arcs instead of lines.
Well, this game is different. Like Ender's Game, or in the battle school, you pick a vector and you have to decide what you're going to do from this side of the room, because once you start on a trajectory, you can't change it.
Unless you come up with something real clever.
Yeah, but for the most part, you can't. And you have to do
But he came up with really clever ways to change it.
What do you mean?
They came up with ways to project multiple vectors at once so they would act upon each other in mid-flight, or ways to work off the momentum of another person, to be able to choose that vector direction halfway through a flight. And everybody else was thinking full wall-to-wall in the early going. And Ender thought of multiple ways to crack the code to shorten those runs to essentially speed up the game to his advantage.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome.
Do you think you would win a lot at that game?
Initially, no, I would not win. I don't know, it's interesting. I'm playing chess against my kids now, and it's fun to watch how they lose. For example, my son, he'll pin me down, and then I'll just threaten one of his pieces, and for fear of losing one of his pieces, he'll back off, not knowing that he completely had me destroyed. He just didn't do anything. But my daughter is different. She'll move in, and then she'll start to squeeze, and she'll squeeze harder, and she'll just completely destroy. And usually it's some silly tactical mistake that she makes, and then I just usually go around the backside and get her in checkmate.
You sneak it out. Okay.
Yeah, but she has the ability to keep the press on, and he's more tenderhearted. He can't do that.
It sounds like he would have been a magnificent fit for officer school in the Union Army.
Yeah?
Yeah, that was their thing. They just couldn't finish anybody off.
They didn't know how to do it.
That's the wrong time to pursue. No, it's the right time to pursue.
Except for Sherman.
Sherman was a little different in temperament. Have you guys heard of him there in the South?
Yeah, we have, Matt. For those of you that don't know, Sherman burned down the entire South, and
including the whole city of Atlanta.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Are people still sore about that?
They are. Yeah, they are.
Yeah. It's weird how people stay grumpy about having their homes burned.
Well, I mean, none of us were alive, obviously, but whatever. Hey, guess who's in here, Matt?
Who is it?
It's Trent.
Oh, Trent.
He can't hear you.
Jr.
Trent, you want to say something to Matt? You just lean over and say it in the microphone here.
Your hair is very pretty.
Thank you for saying that.
He said, "Thank you for saying that."
Yeah, I know that wasn't in jest.
Hey, can we
and
have
I know that was probably hard for you to admit.
Can we have a Dale
thank
Jr.?
You for saying it.
Can we just have one Dale Jr.?
Dale Jr.
So he's getting some cameras and stuff everybody that doesn't know, Trent does the YouTube videos for No Dumb Questions.
Which continue to be rad.
Yeah, my daughter found some tadpoles today. I think he's going to, I don't know which one he's going to do, but probably let some tadpoles swim. I love them. I think that's awesome.
Why not tadpoles? Go for it.
Yeah, tadpoles.
That's always fun.
I think they're rad. He does a really, really good job.
We were on Battle School.
Okay.
And you were saying that you don't think you would win at first, but you do think you would win not at first?
I think I would eventually start to find weaknesses and figure things out.
Yeah, I think so too. That's the way your brain works. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I know you wouldn't win right at first. I learned that playing laser tag with you.
Oh, you're a camper.
No, I'm a patroller.
Yeah.
You come up with 3 controllable points and you move between them.
You totally
That's so
camp.
different. It's a different exercise, man.
Oh, God.
You're the idiot ninja. It's like, oh, I can respawn. I'll just run around willy-nilly. I'll probably find some people to shoot somewhere. What could go wrong?
Well, there were no teams. There was no objective other than just shoot as many people as you can.
I irritated some, I think, live-at-home 20-year-olds. Those are the guys who were after me.
That was really fun. Dude, my strategy was kill campers. That was my strategy.
That's weird. If you think that I was a camper, it feels like your strategy didn't go well.
Yeah, you're making great points, Matt. Well, the main thing is you beat me.
By like one shot.
There were these 2 guys that were on the other side. They were camping opposite you. And I kept running up the ramp, and I would gack them, and then I would leave, and I would go shoot a couple of little kids, and I'd run back, and like, oh, you're still here. I'm just going to shoot you again. But I would wait until they forgot about me.
While you were gacking those kids downstairs, though?
What's that?
I was shooting those guys as soon as they respawned.
Were you really?
Yeah. We were just alternating, dude.
Oh, that's awesome.
I didn't know you were doing that. That makes
definitely.
me really happy.
Dude, I really wish we could have done, next time we're together, let's play laser tag.
I would like that.
We should do a laser tag meetup. That'd be amazing.
Oh, that's the best idea in the history of the podcast.
It really is.
Wow, that needs to happen. I feel like I'd like to bring elbow and knee pads because in the process of patrolling, I got rug burns on all 4 of those points. No, you did not. I did. I had to crawl for cover, man. Or I was going to get shot, and I wanted to win super bad.
That's fantastic.
I pistol whipped a couple kids.
Yeah,
I feel terrible about it.
Now we're embellishing.
Okay. See how it is. The point is
you're Bonzo Madrid.
Oh, come on. So that means you're Ender, and you're doing like some kind of double-footed donkey kick into my undercarriage?
No.
Because I'd hate that. That game was incredible, and watching the way the strategy unfolded, I could have done 5 more chapters of that. I was soaking it in, and I actually started to think, based on the pacing of the book, that maybe this is it, and this doesn't resolve, and the game is just him getting to the top and continuing to win, and I don't know where it goes, but it went somewhere really interesting.
What do you think about the fact they kept changing the rules on him?
I loved that.
Did you?
I loved it. That's when I decided this can't be Ender's game, because the minute they started changing the rules on him, he's won this game. So what's the actual game?
Oh. Okay.
So Bonzo fits into this story.
Yeah.
After Ender's first big promotion, and you were wanting to take us there. What did you make of his interaction with Bonzo? Did you find that believable or a little contrivy?
Yeah, I liked it. He let Bonzo off the hook, right? He's like, you just say you changed your mind, and I'll say yes, sir, and move along. But I've actually, got you pinned down strategically here, not in the game, but just like by the rules of how Battle School works. And so my favorite part in that interaction was when they described Bonzo's anger as hot and Ender's anger as cold.
Yeah.
And they said, if you have cold anger, then you're still thinking clearly and you can maintain the upper hand. But hot anger is dangerous because you lose the ability to think strategically.
When is the last time you had hot anger?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I had hot anger recently over some family decision stuff involving the care of...
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I called you and I was like, I am feeling things. So
I felt them with you.
yeah. So when was the last time you had hot anger?
Ooh. One of the things I'm learning about where I'm at mentally on sabbatical is that stupid things can get me to a place where in my heart I am very angry. It doesn't show and it immediately goes away, but just like frustrating things, like getting the latch of a bag hooked on something and my hands are full and it's hooked and it's no one's fault. No one did anything to me, but it's just like, oh, come on, world, work. Come. Oh. I want to change that. It's never been me before. So I've observed that in myself, that my little flourishes of hot anger aren't directed at anyone. They're just dumb frustration and they come and go quickly, but I don't want them to come at all. So my answer is more stupid than yours. It's over nothing. It's over bumbling frustration with fumbling things with my hands.
Do you raise your voice and yell?
If I'm alone, sometimes yes, I do. Never like just a string of expletives. I'll just like out loud to myself with no one else around, dropping stuff. I'll be like, come on. I had some choice words for myself. Oh, this is it. My last hot anger. I was in Great Smoky Mountains National Park fishing in a river that, I mean, I set everything up to catch fish. I did not catch any fish. Getting shut out on a whole day like that doesn't happen to me that much anymore. Like I've improved, but clearly I haven't improved that much because I got shut out. And I don't know, the slime east of the Mississippi is different than the rock slime west. And I had on the wrong soles on my wading boots. I've never fallen in a stream, and I fell 3 times in one day in Great Smoky Mountains. Filled up my waders all with water, filled them up. I have this huge bruise on my hip right now, and I said some stuff when I got up out of the water one of those times. I was hot angry.
Water in the waders, not cool.
No, I don't risk getting deep enough for it to be a problem. It just is embarrassing and it hurt and it was bumbling and windy and my line's messed up and I'm not catching fish. Oh, stupid. So, yeah, that's my last hot anger. I need to grow up. I feel embarrassed now. Gosh.
Why?
That's not who I want to be.
Yeah.
I've always been pretty chill. I think I still am, but I don't want to be weak, and I view that as weakness.
What, just the clumsy part?
No, just getting all angry and stupid over things that are nobody's fault, looking like an idiot splashing around in the river, cussing yourself under your breath like a buffoon. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be, like in control.
I try to fake control even if I don't have it. I find myself doing that.
Yeah, me too.
I was trying to hook up a bush hog to a tractor today. It took me an hour and a half. That's a long time, Matt.
Was it broken?
It was rusty, and a lot of the joints were rusted together and stuff, and I had to use some Archimedes principles and some levers and stuff, but it was...
Okay, all right, that doesn't sound weird to me.
It was challenging, and so I went slow, and I got frustrated several times, but I tried to double down on the patience. A lot of times I fake it till I make it, if I'm honest.
Do you talk to yourself? Even not out loud, but do you have things that you say to Sandlin?
That's exact. How did you know I do that? I say, come on, Sandlin.
Come on, Sandlin.
Yeah. I do say that.
Come on, Whitman, hit the ball in. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Part of that book I was telling you about a while back, The Inner Game of Tennis.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first third of the book is all about these two competing inner voices. And one of these voices is competing against the other, saying, you're screwing up. It's the berating voice. And the other voice is the one that's disappointed, the angry voice. And the book is kind of coaching you toward not having those two voices anymore. And I'd like to internalize that better. Yeah, come on, Whitman. I say that quite a bit.
That's interesting.
What does cold anger look like for you?
Very calm. I think through things. I wait half a beat before I respond because I'm thinking about my chess move and I'm predicting how I'm going to crush the enemy. No joke. I've been in meetings lately where the person across the table was trying to play some mental jiu-jitsu. And I just sat there and I'm like, okay, cool. They're playing one step ahead in chess. This is easy. Let's just play 3 steps ahead.
Cold anger is powerful, isn't it?
It really is.
I think I'm better cold angry than I am blissfully naive and giving the benefit of the doubt. But I think I'm a better person when I'm giving the benefit of the doubt and I'm blissfully naive.
is it adrenaline when the cold anger comes? And is that like what happens? Your brain steals a little bit, if that's the way to say that.
Yep. Well, you've identified a threat. Cold anger doesn't happen unless you've figured out there's a threat.
Yeah.
I have to win now, or results will occur that I think are bad.
Mm-hmm. I just really like that line in the book. I thought it was cool.
I like the direction that took us. So he gets into Salamander Army, and Bonzo is horrible. He plays his hand really, really smart. Did you know the first time you read the book that was going to boil back over?
No.
Or did you think maybe that's done since he's out of Salamander?
I thought it was over.
I did too. Yeah, I thought this is a bug on the windshield. On with the story of Ender.
Hey, Matt, you want to read a couple of iTunes reviews?
I love those. Even the ones that are critical turn out to be really fun, but yes.
All right, here we go. Pick one, and I'll pick one.
All right. This podcast seriously rocks. This is from Mr. Camo. No other podcast even compares. Matt and Destin are extremely knowledgeable on mind-blowing topics and complement each other in a superior fashion. I wish they uploaded far more often. That's fair. Matt, P.S. I'm not lying. My first episode was the sleep paralysis episode. I laughed so hard when you made that joke. Okay. So apparently someone did join us at episode 15, which is kind of a watershed moment.
I'm sorry.
Thanks for the review. Thanks for sticking with us after me ruining your sleep.
Eagle70K says, I came to this podcast for Destin as a Smarter Everyday fan, but I stayed for Matt. Destin is still pretty great, but Matt is the guy. It is an intelligent and funny show. I always look forward to the next episode. So, Matt, you are cooler than me, according to Eagle70K.
You didn't have to pick that one, but you did. Thank you, Eagle70K. Thank you, Destin Sandlin.
You're welcome. Hold on, wait. This one's from Gregory23 Friendships. Hey, Destin and Matt, I've been a listener since day one, but I've always struggled to describe the podcast to my friends when recommending it. I don't think I quite understood what your podcast meant to me until your most recent episode, Visiting a Rocket Range. As a guy, I feel like it's often difficult to build meaningful relationships with other guys. It's easy not to prioritize these relationships.
Okay, I got one more excerpt here from @Berto Jimenez. Says, it's rare to find content that immerses me in a conversation quite like NDQ has. The best part is those moments occur not when they are breaking the third wall, but usually right after an insightful opinion or a Destin engineering fact drop or a Matt historical revelation. What's frustrating about the podcast is my inability to actually interject. And then a bunch of other really cool stuff as well that will be a little too gushy for us and awkward for us to read because it's really nice.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that they are just upset that they can't yell at us. Or, nuh-uh, Matt, or whatever, like right there in the heat of...
Or just tag on more. Like, oh, I have a thought too. I have a thing.
Yeah.
And that's cool. And there are a lot of different formats for a podcast, but that's the one we've chosen because we wanted to take our friendship and conversations and invite other people to hang out. So I'm glad that's the way people take it. You know this, buddy, but to everybody, like the reviews are encouraging to us, obviously. Even the critical ones are kind of fun to read, and it points people toward the podcast, and we appreciate that too. So just on a bunch of levels, thank you.
There are currently 835 reviews, Matt. I think it'd be really rad if that was round and base 10. Don't you?
That is the Destin way to say it. I wouldn't argue. That's very cool. Thank you. So then this is where it gets really interesting to me in terms of the plot working out. He gets his own army, and it's Dragon Army, correct?
Oh, yeah. Which is the coolest army.
Yeah, what was the other one that he went through, that he was a part of?
Oh, he was
Rabbit.
Rat. Was he Rat?
Rat.
Yeah.
Yeah, round and round. The kids all perked up when Rat came up. Yeah, so he ends up in Dragon, and Dragon was like a decommissioned army, but they still had the outfits or something.
He made it amazing.
And he did it with the Outsiders.
He did a couple of different things. He made more tunes than the other armies had, and so they were fighting against, what was it? They had 4 tunes, and he went to 5.
Can I ask you, I feel like I understand military history and terminology pretty well from like my emphasis in military tactics in undergrad. I've never heard that expression. What does that mean?
I have no idea.
So maybe it's just something they made up, and I can still feel good about myself?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, wow, thanks, man.
How was it spelled?
I don't know. I did the audiobook.
Yeah, I did too. I just grabbed onto it. I was like, whatever this is, it's a unit of fighting people, and
Yeah,
let's roll with it.
good enough. Yeah, he split up his army differently. He trained them differently. He interacted with them differently, though still firmly in charge.
And I love the fact that he decimated people. Well, maybe not literally decimated people, but he completely destroyed them.
Yeah, he did better than decimated people.
Yeah, he completely destroyed them.
Yeah.
And that was amazing. And so
Yeah. He decamated people.
my favorite one was when,
Centimated people.
obviously when they started the battle before he got there and they were all hiding around the outside. And then he's like, okay, I'm just going to make a tank out of people right now.
Yes.
And then they won.
Yeah, that was
And then he's like,
Yeah.
and I'm done. It's over.
that was the best moment in Battle School. I loved what he did emotionally at that point that you just referenced. I beat everything you can possibly come up with. I quit.
Yeah, exactly. And what was it? What was that thing they call that would unfreeze everybody?
The hook?
Yeah, the hook. And he's like, whatever. I'm not even going to line up and like shake hands after the baseball game. We're done.
Yeah.
Everybody knows this was crap. I'm not even going to acknowledge all this. Whatever.
That's right, because the team that he beat that was given the advantage was Bonzo's team.
Was it? No,
And that's
not at the end. Not at the very end.
but when he didn't line up and shake hands, that was against Salamander.
Okay.
Because that's what made Bonzo so mad, and that's what resulted in the shower fight.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Let me bring up something else.
Feel free.
So while all this is going on at Battle School, we've got Valentine and Peter back home, right?
Yeah.
First of all, go ahead and say it. What were your thoughts about the voice actor for Valentine?
Destin, when you bring that up, I feel things, emotive things in my heart that are sad
Yes.
and longing. I could not stand her performance, man.
If I'm not mistaken, she's the same voice actress that read To Kill a Mockingbird, and she did a fantastic job on that.
I can tell she's very talented. I know what she was going for. It just didn't work for me. That doesn't mean it was wrong or bad. It just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
Did it work for you?
I played it fast. I thought it was good. I mean, it was very clear that it was a young woman trying to feel things. Yeah, I mean, that was obviously clear.
And where that helped the story
Was when she was
You know
talking
what?
to Graf.
Nope. I'm going to about face right now.
Because of Graf?
I have not liked her voice or her performance until this moment, and now I think it was genius because it literally was her performance that caused it to click for me that Valentine is too empathetic to do Ender's job, Peter is too cruel to do Ender's job, and Ender is the right mix of empathy and cruelty to do the job.
Show me, don't tell me.
Yes. It was that voice acting that finally made it click for me, that basic truth in terms of the character trajectories and why Ender was the right fit. So, yep, I've griped about it to you. I just made fun of it, and I'm wrong, and I retract that.
I don't know. She definitely read it differently than she did in To Kill a Mockingbird. I have to Google that right now. I got to make sure that was her.
I have to take your word for that. What did you think of the chapter where Peter, who threatened to murder people, comes to her and is like, we're in the woods. I skin squirrels. Now you're going to help me take over the world. No. You are too. I am not. Yes, you are. Okay, fine.
I thought it was interesting. I was like, what? Yeah.
To me, that was the only thing that took me out of the book. I didn't like that. That happened too fast. Like, it made more sense than Anakin's conversion to the dark side in the prequels, but it didn't work for me, and it made me disrespect Valentine. I thought she was weak and unimpressive for the rest of the book. She had her moments, but just along for the ride with this horrible idea that theoretically she's against.
Okay, Mr. History of Thought, tell me what was the significance of the names Locke and Demosthenes? Who are those people in history? Locke had something to do with the American Revolution, right?
Yeah, he predates it by a bunch. Locke barely made it into the 1700s. So he would be a mostly 17th century...
So he was British.
Maybe Scottish? I think he's Scottish. He was a a philosopher who covered a bunch of different arenas of thought. So the expression tabula rasa, you've heard that?
No.
It just means blank slate. So
Okay.
his argument was that people appear in the world as a blank slate, which means that his epistemology or theory of knowledge, how people know stuff, would be empiricism. All that we know through experience in our five senses. That's in contrast to rationalism, which would be like Platonic thought, where we know stuff through some sort of intuition or awareness of a higher reality than the physical plane. So Locke is a pretty practical philosopher who believes in self-ownership, and that self-ownership and property are the beginning points of a
Civilized society?
a pluralistic society. So Locke lived in a time where absolute monarchs were all the rage, and he realized that this makes people susceptible to the whims of just crazy powerful people. And he also was alive right on the heels of the 30 Years' War, when Protestants and Catholics killed each other to the tune of like 600,000 people. And so he's trying to dream up a way to take very different parties and make it possible for them to coexist under the same rule of law, which really can't start with Judeo-Christian ethics. So you got to find some common ground. And so for him, that common ground, regardless of belief or not, was self-ownership. I own me and the stuff I make. You own you and the stuff you make. Laws have to start by respecting that truth. Governments have to start by respecting that truth. The other really famous thing from him that you might have heard of is consent of the governed.
Yep.
The idea that we volunteer to give up a few of our rights to each other for more de facto freedom that comes from being able to trust each other because we're governed. Does that ring any bells?
Yeah. Ben Franklin was against that, right?
But, well, I don't know about that. Franklin would be in favor of a more substantial federal government maybe than Locke. But like John Locke wrote the Constitution of the Carolinas. At that point, it would have just been Carolina. And I don't think Ben Franklin would have been too opposed to most of the content of that. Like, that really informed the founding documents that Franklin helped shape.
What about Demosthenes? Who is that?
I don't know as much about Demosthenes. I know that Demosthenes was... You'll hear people say that he's a philosopher, but I think he's more like an orator, like a political speech maker and a social influencer from Athens. Right as Athens was about to come out of the Hellenic age, so the end of officially the Greek age, they were an independent city-state. He would have been alive from, let's say, late 300s, well, early 300s to late 300s BC. And his chief rival was Philip II of Macedon, who was Alexander the Great's dad and the dude who appointed Aristotle to be Alexander the Great's tutor. And, you know, Macedonia is north of Greece. And so Demosthenes was always trying to rally people to oppose this invading force, to come together to be kind of nationalistic and to push back on Philip II. And he made Philip II super mad. And they kind of had a tiff going on. Ultimately, Athens is nicely conquered by Philip II. Then Philip II dies. Demosthenes, I think, rallied a bunch of people to fight against Alexander. Alexander snuffed out that rebellion. Then Alexander died in like 323. And then the guy who succeeded Alexander, his name escapes me. I'll think of it later. That guy is just sick of Demosthenes' shtick. And so they track him down in hiding, and he takes some poison pill right before they get there and then gives them some smart alecky speech and then dies. That's him.
But I don't know anything about him.
Well, I don't know. Like, okay, the reason I know about him is because I know a decent amount about Philip II and Alexander the Great.
Gotcha.
So I don't know what he argued for. I don't know what his philosophy or his ideas were. I couldn't even tell you what school of thought he was in. But I know he really liked Athens, and he really didn't like those invaders, and he irritated Philip II. So that's what I got for you.
Thanks. So do you think Card picked the right names for the role that he had Valentine and Peter play?
Valentine was Demosthenes, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I only sort of remember.
Yeah, that is true.
That one checks out to me because in that analogy, the buggers are the Macedonians, right? And he's doing kind of this nationalistic Earth First rallying cry. Maybe that's it. Locke, I don't know.
Well, he wanted Locke to be the great unifier. That's what Locke's role was. That's what Peter tried to do.
Oh, that's right, because they played opposite of their personal characteristics.
Right.
Yeah, I think the names kind of check out. I mean, Locke is the father of Western liberalism in a way, so that's considered like a pretty reasonable approach by a lot of people. Yeah, I think the names check out. I think it's clever.
The whole thing was meant to counter Russia. And Russia became this world power, and they were preparing for war after the buggers. We know we're going to unify, but whenever the war is actually over, then that's who's going to rule Earth again. So let's go ahead and figure out how we're going to rule Earth. I thought it was interesting that Ender found out later, they accepted the Locke proposal. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, which is the right proposal to accept, and just weird that then Peter gets credit for this brilliant proposal that is in no way what he actually thinks. Did it seem like that storyline kind of petered out as it went along? No pun intended.
God, that was awful. Yeah, it did. But it didn't matter anymore because we were going to war, right?
Yeah. Let's move on to that.
Yeah, let's go to war. I did find it interesting that in chapter 16, apparently cigarette ashtrays still exist. That was in the book.
We haven't figured that out in the future.
I found that interesting. I mean, so we've got Battle School. We've got all this stuff going on Earth. And then, the transition to the grand finale.
Command School.
Yeah, I guess Command School. Oh, yeah. What about Mazer Rackham?
So Command School is not even a thing. Command School is a myth. It's a lie, right?
I didn't catch that. All I know is he woke up in a room one day with an old guy that was slapping him.
You had to know that was Mazer Rackham, right?
I know. The first time I listened to it, I did not know that.
My kid did. My middle child was not surprised that was Mazer Rackham. And I asked why. She was like, no, it had to be somebody important, and that was the only character we hadn't seen yet.
Yeah.
You're good at reading books, kid. Nice job. And I assumed because Inception has happened since this book was written, that was the trick they were going to use to explain how it could be Mazer Rackham and he wouldn't be dead yet. And that all worked for me.
Inception? Or you're talking about Interstellar?
Oh, yeah, Inception. Duh. Yes, Interstellar. Thank you. I don't know. They both have weird, organ themes, and you get what I mean.
Yep.
I thought he was a blast as a character.
Yeah, I did too. I can remember where I was after I read it the second time. I was mowing a specific part of the yard listening to it, and Mazer Rackham started slapping him around. I was like, yeah.
Yes.
And that was pretty good.
Isn't it weird how our brains do that?
Yeah.
I remember where I heard stuff. With Ready Player One, because that was Flood Summer, I remember what I was working on. Or no, it wasn't Flood Summer. It was Deck Summer. It was the patio summer. I remember what part of the patio I was working on when things happened in that book. It's nutty. Did this question occur to you at any point? Why not just have Mazer Rackham fight? Because he seems like his brain was still sharp.
No, that question didn't he answer that question?
Maybe so. I've only done the book once.
Yeah, he said something along the lines of, I had to prepare someone to follow him. I mean, you got to believe they'd put him in a simulator and see how he could do. And they just decided that Ender was better. And I really liked the part where Mazer Rackham showed him some videos after he finally got to see the videos. And he says, did you see it? And he goes, yeah. They were all protecting that ship. He goes, yeah, I know. It was real subtle, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was cool.
It was a really cool moment because one of my favorite people in the entire world to talk to is Don Pettit. And
yeah,
every once in a while, he'll throw me a little crumb like that. And it's just like, man, he knows all the things. He's going to ask me a question and see if I can see one of his things. You know what I mean?
And you see a lot of those things, and you're a very astute guy in a lot of different ways. But I have to say that what I liked about that moment is that it felt like there was mutual appreciation between Mazer Rackham and Ender Wiggin, because they were the only two people who, unprompted in all of the history of the Bugger Wars, had seen that pattern on their first look.
Right. And the difference was it's what made Mazer Rackham win, right?
Yeah.
Very interesting. I thought that this was a really good part of the book to me. There was some other stuff, like they were cloaking this planet, or I guess it was a moon of, I forget, one of the gas giants. I don't remember. I thought that was all really...
What was it called?
I forget. I'm supposed to know. It wasn't tight.
It has a name that has like a double meaning. Oh, it's Eros.
Oh, yeah. It was Eros. So I thought all that was really cool, but we get to the final battle scene. Dude, he shows up, all his bros, and what was her name? Petra. Oh, yeah. So all the best ones are there. All the best commanders or toon leaders or whatever you want to call them. They're all there. And they just start these simulations, or what you think are simulations. Dude, what'd you think when they started doing this stuff?
We all audibly gasped when we figured out what was going on. And then I tried to talk with you about it right after that because I had to call. And you were like, no. I was like, dude, but did you? No. But dude, the thing just happened. No. But it's a really big, important moment in my life, and I need it. No. Stupid podcast.
Dude, when you realize that it's a game, but it's not a game.
It's the largest single death event in the history of known existence.
Yeah. And he thought it was a game.
Yep.
You're like, what? I mean, that is such good writing.
And what he did to win.
Just go ahead and talk about that. Well, what did he do to win?
Well, remember when the simulation started, he was like, well, why can't I use the little, what's it called?
The doctor.
Little doctor. Well, can I just use the little doctor on a planet? And I don't understand really why Mazer Rackham was like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't maybe do that. Seemed like a weird way to steer him, but it worked. I kind of knew, I saw the foreshadowing that like the obvious solution here is what he saw as also the obvious solution. But at that moment, you figured out this is why you could not have an adult with fully developed morality in an uncontrolled world making that decision. They would hesitate like all the Union Civil War generals did, except Sherman. To solve this problem, you've got to make that move. Now, it just so happens that the problem isn't what we thought it was at all. As it went along, you started to feel like the reasoning seems kind of flimsy for why we're on the offensive now. Are we sure they're coming back? I guess they're the evil, dark, gross other, so it doesn't matter if we blow them up.
No, it goes all the way back to the first fight in school. He wants to crush them so that they can never hurt him again.
Right, which is the same thing that Graf wants to do. It's the same thing that everybody wants to do. Crush them so they can never hurt people again. Maybe some people want revenge, but it seems like the strategy is, it's not a preemptive strike. It's a reactive strike.
I remember the exact road I was driving with my dad on when this happened. I was driving. I was 15 years old. I think I was 15, maybe 16. Dad was in the passenger seat. And we start talking about Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And I said, I can't believe they didn't just surrender. I just don't understand why they didn't do that. And, right blinker, I still remember, at the stop sign. And he said, Destin, he said, if someone were to attack the United States and like thousands of people died instantly and we didn't really know why or how, who do you fight? What would you do? It's like you wouldn't know what to do. You wouldn't know who did it. If it's something you've never seen before, you don't know how to react to that. You don't know what to do. 9/11 happened very soon thereafter. I was like, what the heck? I didn't know what I wanted, but I wanted a gun. I wanted a gun real bad. Didn't know why, but I needed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a pretty helpless feeling.
Yeah.
When that happened. In part because you just didn't know who to fight. Like somebody needs punched for that.
Right.
I'm not sure who. And I think, as an aside, our policy in the aftermath reflected that sentiment.
It did.
Somebody needs punched here.
Let's go to the bugger worlds.
You. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, this book is good, dude.
This book is good, and it anticipates much.
It does. The reason Ender's able to win in this battle, and this gets back to that conversation with the 4-star general, is because he has people that are able to think. He gives them their sector they're supposed to cover. He has the big picture, but he expects them to handle the small picture. Mm-hmm. On the enemy side, they're all operating from that one central command location. Mm-hmm. And so they don't have the truest information at the point of contact with the enemy. They can look at the big picture.
Wonderful observation.
Yeah. I mean, that's the advantage.
I'm glad you agree that you think that was a wonderful observation. It really is, though.
No,
I have not thought of that.
No, I wasn't agreeing that it's a wonderful observation. I was just excited that you see it too. I mean,
I do, and I hadn't until then.
Anyway, talking to the general, I was like, what you're telling me right now, do you realize how important this is in this book? I know you're real and you're important, but I read this book one time, and he goes, yes. And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
What?
And I see these principles on display amongst history's most successful military men. I mean, what's Hannibal Barca famous for?
Taking elephants over the mountains?
Yeah. No one, what? Wait, you mean to tell me that we got a fight going on here between basically modern-day Tunisia and Rome? There's a little stretch of water between it, and they're basically the same climate, and I don't know, you probably just want to take soldiers over there and, stab people. What would be the most ridiculous outside-the-box thing you could do? Well, we'll go clear up to Spain and walk all the way around through the Alps with war elephants. The guy that's the famous one because it's so outlandish and easy to remember. There's a reason he just never lost, and the one sort of loss that you can pin on him it's not even really fair to call that a loss or on him. He just outside the box. Alexander. What's the last thing you'd expect from basically exaggerated city-state, like something the size of a county these days, to try a march of conquest against Persia and go all the way to India? I don't think Alexander's march of conquest was a great idea. I'm not necessarily morally for it, but it's so outside the box. These military geniuses of history just did not see strategy the same way everybody else at their time did.
I might not go so far to say he's a military genius, but Ulysses S. Grant, I was at Vicksburg overlooking one side of the area there for the siege, and the Mississippi River does a horseshoe right there. Mm-hmm. Grant started digging.
Right where you're going.
He started digging across the horseshoe. He's like, you know what the best thing for me to do right now is?
Other than drink?
Reroute the Mississippi River. Yep, that's what I'm going to do. Hey, guys, go ahead and reroute the river. Oh, by the way, it's 1864. We don't have any, or whatever year it was. That matters to you.
Yeah, and you can still see that at Grant's Canal, Louisiana.
Isn't that weird?
Weird.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. So anyway, I found the fact that Ender trusted the decision level information to be handled by his generals, I'll say. I found that to be fascinating and awesome.
And I would add to that the genius of Graff and his team was that by putting them under pressure, but a kind of pressure where the stakes aren't life and death, you allowed them to get in the zone. Those guys were loose when they were playing the final game. And they were rolling with each other. They were having fun. It's interesting that Petra, the feminine version of Peter, is the loyal, good friend who faltered in the most important moment. But they're human, and they're doing their thing. And just last week, 2 weeks ago, we were working on the human psychology of in the zone and how that affects things with that stupid paddleball game we were talking about the other day.
That was fun.
Who cares? It's just stupid paddleball. Literally the game is just hit a ball with a paddle as many times as you can. But the difference between let's just try this and let's put some thought into this, we slipped into a zone in paddleball with our wives and quintupled the results of not being in a zone. I mean, the zone is a thing, right? Scientifically?
Yes, there is the zone. Yes.
Yeah, like it's Reddit research, and so of course I didn't read the study, but I've seen more than once that our brains get into a place where something just clicks. I've heard you say we find the algorithm and we're just there for a while. And that's what I think Card was driving at, was the pressure was just the right amount so that no moral decision making is being made right now. They can just be in the zone.
It was cool. It was cool. I have a couple of notes here. One says he learned from the buggers, and no one can think better and faster than you. I don't know what my notes meant there.
I don't necessarily know what your notes mean either. I remember that coming up a couple of times. You have to learn from your enemy.
Yeah. The enemy is the only teacher.
I just don't remember what the punchline was.
No, I don't remember that either.
What do you do with the epilogue?
The epilogue? When he goes to the planet and he finds the egg?
Yeah, I mean, he goes to this colony planet, Valentine shows up. and then
Ender.
He's off with some kid whose name I don't remember or care about.
In some kind of helicopter craft?
Yeah, it's such a bizarre ending. It's good, I think. Is that how you wanted the book to end?
I was cool with it. What about that moment when you realize you just annihilated an entire, I don't know if species is the word, but just like race of humanoid beings?
Yeah, see, I've still never experienced that.
No, that's something I haven't done yet.
Okay. So it's hard to empathize. I've never genocided anything. A couple ants with a magnifying glass, but not much more than that.
I might give a go at wasp.
You know what? I take that back. I have harvested my share of wasps.
But answer the question. If you were to learn...
I'm dodging the question.
That you just did this thing, you didn't know that you... I mean, the only reason he could do it is they had to win. They decided that, okay, well, if we're going to win, then we're going to use this young man's brain as a computer to accomplish our ends. I mean, he did not have total knowledge of the situation.
Right.
Have you ever been in a situation like that where people were just... Of course. You have.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll tell you when mics are off what some of those are, because they get into some sticky territory. But it's weird. You wouldn't think there'd be a lot of opportunities for people to try to use someone who plays the roles that I play in their lives, but you'd be surprised.
Really?
Yeah.
Sorry?
If you've positioned yourself in any way in life where you affect anything, someone will come up with a reason to have a vested interest in using you for their purposes. And yeah, that can happen in any line of work. And I'd like to think that most of the time I catch it, but I'm sure sometimes I have not. And I've been in the employ of someone who had nefarious motives and I didn't even know. And I thought I was right and doing good things.
That stinks, man. There's one quote at the end of the book I'm not sure I agree with. It says, power will always end up with those who crave it.
What's your hesitation?
I don't think that's right. You can have influence because what you do is good and valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And you could argue that influence is power.
Yes.
I don't think you have to crave that power in order to have the influence. In fact, I know that can happen.
Yeah.
I know a person can have power and not seek it.
Boy, it doesn't seem like that's the normal path to power, though. George Washington doesn't seem like a dude who was just beaten down the door for power at every opportunity. Robert E. Lee, for his other faults, doesn't seem like a dude who was beaten down the door for power at every opportunity. But nowadays...
What about the Queen of England?
If you want power, you have to be heavily vested in getting that. Yeah, monarchy's a little different, though, isn't it? And you're influenced because you got a soft spot for her and Claire Foy because you're watching The Crown.
Oh, it's awesome. Man, I haven't... Oh, man, I'm going to watch another episode tomorrow night. But the quote is, power will always end up with those who crave it. I disagree.
You and I talk about why we've not run for political office. And you know what I keep saying. Well, one, Camilla's not into it. And two, I don't think I'm willing to do what it takes to get that power. And I don't think people ideologically who are like me are willing to do what it takes to get power over other people, because like in the general political sense, my political ideology is forfeiting power over other people. So I think people who believe in the game, the power game, you have to start with that belief to pursue power, or else you just won't be interested, right?
I don't know.
I mean, we all want a degree of control over our outcome and over our world. So I suppose everybody wants power, but I don't know that everybody wants to rule the world.
There's a quote in in Jordan Peterson's book, 12 Rules for Life.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
He said, "Shame on you for wanting to rule a city before you have your house in order." I was like, whew, that's pretty good.
Boy, that guy just says some stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm only on Rule 7, right? So I haven't read the whole book. So for all I know, Rule 8's like eat a pine cone every day. So I don't really know. I mean, I'm not going to totally endorse yet, but I've enjoyed the book. I think it's interesting.
I want to react against that just because he used the phrase, shame on you. But he's not wrong on that one.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I mean, isn't that deal with the log in your own eye before you deal with the speck in somebody else's, just phrased differently?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So I can't get you to agree with me. Power will always end up with those who crave it. I disagree with that.
I know you want to fight with me. I respect that. That's a good impulse, and it makes for more interesting conversation, and I'm sorry. I just can't decide if I think it or not. I don't know. It's too general for me to fully sign off on, and I've seen it so much that I can't dismiss it either.
All right, so here we are at the end of the book.
I hear the disappointment in your voice.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, okay, well, here's the end of the thing.
Whatever. I love the book.
Yep.
I think it's fantastic. It taught me things about how to deal with enemies. It taught me things about how to deal with my own anger.
Yep.
Probably the biggest takeaway for me in the whole book is hot anger is bad for you. Cold anger can be good. It's an effective tool.
I appreciate the can be. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really, really internalized that.
Your first point right there is so powerful.
What?
Because it's one thing to figure out how to deal with enemies who are basically like you and sound like you and kind of look more or less like you. I mean, even people from other countries, other ethnicities, like come on, we're still bipedal and have 10 fingers and 10 toes and our bodies are the same. Like we make all these big differences out to be a big thing, but we're the same. We're one species. What I love about the enemy being the buggers, they don't look like you. They feel you can't talk to them. I can't even talk to them. They're just too other. They're just too different. And like one dude out of everybody is able to even crack open the door to see through that. And even then, it's only through the effort of the dangerous other, the enemy themselves, that he's even able to start to see what it looks like to think differently about his perceived enemy.
I like when they said the whole war was because they couldn't talk to each other.
Yes. And I don't know if you're up for going modern allegory, so you can stop me whenever you want, but I think we play the dangerous other game so often now, and I mean we, and by we I mean like we, not other people, me, where this is the right think, this is the right look, that is the wrong think, that is the wrong look, and because of X, Y, and Z, I can't even reason with these people. And so there's a dismissiveness level that's enormous, as though there's some kind of weird alien bug thing. And I think one of the themes of the book is just what you said, how to deal with your enemy, or even how to perceive of your enemy. Whoever your enemy is, they're not as much the dangerous other as a weird alien bug thing is on the surface.
I enjoyed the book. I'm going to continue to recommend it to everyone.
Great call. This is my favorite of the 3 books that we've done.
I agree.
Before seeing Ready Player One, I would have said this one, Ready Player One, Devil in the White City. But I saw Ready Player One, Ernest Cline had his hands all over it. It reduced my appreciation for the book. So I will go Ender's Game, Devil in the White City, Ready Player One, while still acknowledging that I really liked Ready Player One.
I'm simply never going to watch the movie Ender's Game. I've decided.
Please don't.
Yeah, I've decided not to.
it will hurt you.
Yep.
We need to pick another book. We don't have to do it right this second, but I have a suggestion. We'll talk about it and then we'll let people know.
Okay. Sounds good.
Because I'm up, right? Like I get to press the gas pedal on the next pick.
I don't know. Try to do a good job, man.
What are you intoning?
I'm intoning that my books that I've picked are Ready Player One and Ender's Game. That's where I'm at.
I'm intoning The Devil in the White City is a dang good book.
It was a good book. I'm just saying.
Oh, you went all the way into falsetto there.
I'm just saying.
Wow. Oh, you went into falsetto twice.
You ranked the books. You said Ender's Game, Ready Player One, then the one you picked. So,
No, I didn't.
well, would you? Oh, I'm sorry. How'd you order them?
I clearly amended that based on the low quality of the Ready Player One film with which Ernest Cline was involved.
You dug for a caveat and found a reason. Yeah, I get it.
All right.
That's okay.
You know what? Take this.
What?
How about you have a little of your own medicine with the falsetto? I don't know. I don't know. I think you might be a little bit biased toward your own stuff.
I think I might be. I'm looking forward to your next selection.
Let's do the lightning outro here, buddy, because this has been a monster discussion.
Yeah.
We did the meetup with everybody in Nashville, and your thoughts?
It was fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
A lot of people came out. It was really cool. The soda parlor there. I will say this. I ordered the Master Commander, which is an actual drink. And then you're over there
joking.
You're over there talking to some people, and I was like, "Hey Matt, I'm getting the Master Commander. What do you want?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, just give me the dreaded Rear Admiral." And
I did not use that voice.
Whatever. I looked the guy dead in the eyes, and I was like, yeah, I'll go ahead and get a dreaded Rear Admiral as well. And he just had his notepad, and there was like 3 people around me, like listening to what I was ordering, and he just like looks at this pad of paper, and he looks up at me and goes, "What?" And I was like, "A Master and Commander and a dreaded Rear Admiral." And meanwhile, I look over there, and you're just still talking away like a social butterfly.
Yeah, like the point of the exercise. Yeah.
And I was like, "Matt, what is it?" And I look back, and I was like, "He's being a doofus. I'm sorry. Just make that one Master Commander, please." So to have you just totally pwn me like a noob in front of all of our new friends was classic Matt.
Oh, thank you for doing that.
For doing what? You tricked me into it. It was good. It was good.
Oh, man.
Thank you to everyone who came out.
At midnight.
Oh, one guy came from Florida. Some people came from Ohio.
Bought a ticket.
He flew.
Yeah. And flew from Florida.
Yeah.
He's a nice dude.
Yeah.
But who wasn't? There were people there who have ridiculous, crazy, insane, interesting jobs. There was animatronic robot for theme park maker guy.
That was cool.
And I cannot remember his name because that was a lot of names.
No, I can't remember either. I'm so sorry.
Was it Tom?
Some guy promised he was going to say something about taquitos there, and he didn't. Fat
That was
Cage.
disappointing.
Fat Cage. Yeah. I didn't see him.
Yeah, a lot of talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he said it to somebody else. Yeah, that was just a neat event. And how about the soda parlor? Those people have their business lined up. They know what they're doing.
Yeah. That's owned by Olan Rogers. He's a YouTuber. He tells really good stories. It's pretty fun.
Oh, apparently I was the last one on board with that bit of knowledge.
Yeah, you have to check it out.
Okay. Yeah, so that was a good thing. We'll do another one of those someday, right?
Laser tag, dude.
Yeah, we just need to pick a place.
The enemy's gate is down.
Destin Sandlin must know that no adult will ever help him.
Enderwigan.
Your voice is bottomed out better than mine. You're the voice winner this time.
Have a good night, buddy.
I'm also the laser tag winner. Yeah, you too, man.
Sure.
Later.
Dreaded Rear Admiral, please.